Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Web Audio TV. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button.
After returning to her room, Ning Xi suddenly remembered that she had forgotten something very important. She didn't know what would happen after the video was exposed last night. It was all Zhang Weiy's fault. He had been making trouble for her since he came back. Ning Xi turned on her computer and quickly browsed through all the relevant information. Last night, the video of Jia Qingqing's NG 33 times in a row quickly became a hot topic, and the comments below were full of curses. Ning Xi's superb acting surprised everyone and received unanimous praise. Then, everyone began to question the authenticity of the Weibo post that said Ning Xi had nothing to show for but sleeping with others. Then, one after another, fake accounts anonymously exposed that Jia Qingqing had maliciously slapped Ning Xi in the movie, slapped her assistant in private, and acted like a big shot to make things difficult for the crew. Later on, various artists and staff who usually disliked Jia Qingqing began to reveal similar encounters in person, completely destroying the mask that Jia Qingqing had forged in front of her fans. The makeup artist, I hated Ning Xi at first because Jia Qingqing always picked on Ning Xi. In order to make things difficult for Ning Xi, she often vented her anger on the staff. In order to make Ning Xi wait, she kept finding fault with me and asked me to redo her makeup almost every day. At that time, I felt that I was implicated by Ning Xi, so I hated her for a long time. In fact, she wasn't wrong at all. I know that someone will definitely cause trouble for me if I say these things, but I really feel guilty if I don't say it. That day when Zhang Weiy's fans came to the set to make trouble, if Ning Xi didn't block a stone for me with her arm, my face would have been disfigured. Stage supervisor Xiaoli, what do you mean by being outspoken and hating evil? Jia Qingqing is an arrogant, domineering tumor of the crew. She's always late and leaves early, and she's always bossy. She doesn't treat us, the crew, as human beings. I have to run dozens of errands for her every day. Does she think I'm her servant? As for Ning Xi, although she is usually a loner and looks a little cold, she has always been polite to the crew. Every time after filming, she would thank everyone. Even if we don't respond to her because we are biased against her, she still does it every time. Director's assistant, my words carry little weight, but I still want to be fair. Only on the first day of filming, someone came to give Ning Xi something. Usually, I don't see Ning Xi flirting with any man. It was normal for a beautiful woman to have a few suitors behind her. Who would have thought that things would become like that? Cameraman, Ning Xi is absolutely professional. She has a good sense of the camera and knows how to move. Unless it's because of someone else, she can basically pass in one take, so every time I take her, I feel the most relaxed. As for Jia Qingqing, she was probably every photographer's nightmare. She had gone overboard with her plastic surgery, and the shape of her nose was very strange. She kept complaining that her skills were bad. Did she think that she could do a one-to-one Photoshop? Director Guo Qixin thought, the comments on the internet about Ning Xi being raped are pure nonsense. This is not only an insult to Ning Xi, but also an insult to our whole crew. Originally, I thought that when our movie was released, after everyone saw Ning Xi's performance, justice would be clear. But the current development of the matter has seriously affected the shooting process of the crew. Now I will release a group of highlights in advance. Everyone can see it for themselves. Video. Producer Wang Taehe, hey, everyone has spoken. Then let me say something too. I saw a lot of people say that our show suddenly received an investment of 50 million yuan because of the investor behind Ning Xi. In order to clear up the rumors, I asked for the investor's consent, and now I announce his identity. Ning Xi had expected that many people in the crew had reached the limit of their tolerance for Jia Qingqing. As long as one person spoke out, there would be an endless stream of others. But she didn't expect that while they were denouncing Jia Qingqing, they would also praise her. It was an unexpected gain. After all, it was a pleasant thing to be recognized for one's hard work. Wang Taehe's Weibo made her most curious. She hurriedly clicked on the Weibo of the ID Little Prince to see who the investor was. The next second, Ning Xi was speechless. The Little Prince of Karp's Weibo account was, CEO of Shenxi Entertainment, Lu Tingxiao. You're the boss of an entertainment company. Why is your ID so funny? You're like a teenager. She didn't expect that Lu Tingxiao was the one who added the investment. It was unexpected, but reasonable. After all, this was Zhang Weiy's first film after he returned to China, so Shenxi naturally supported him. They had invested 50 million yuan just to play the supporting role. No wonder they were the richest company in the industry. After Wang Taehe's Weibo post, all the doubts were solved. The stain on Ning Xi was completely cleared, while Jia Qingqing was given the reputation of being a big shot with a bad character and acting skills. Unfortunately, although people with discerning eyes could see that Jia Qingqing was behind Ning Xi's scandal, there was no concrete evidence. Ning Xi's expectation had been achieved, but she didn't expect that there would be a more explosive development. Last night, Jia Qingqing's agent, Han Ying, posted on Weibo. Han Ying directly posted the whole process of Jia Qingqing hiring the internet water army to slander Ning Xi, and sneaking into Zhang Weiy's fans to maliciously stir up emotions and use them to attack Ning Xi. What was more shocking was that Han Ying exposed that Jia Qingqing was a fake daughter and a mistress. Jia Qingqing's rumored rich father was not her biological father at all, but her godfather, who already had a wife and a child. Han Ying's Weibo contained a lot of ambiguous chat records and large-scale pornographic photos. Jia Qingqing couldn't deny it even if she had 10,000 mouths. At present, there was only one way for Jia Qingqing, and that was to go into hiding. As for when she could make a comeback, it was almost impossible for her to make a comeback in the entertainment industry, which was a place where thousands of sales passed by. After Han Ying's Weibo post, which went against her professional ethics and exposed her artist's privacy, her career as a manager was basically ruined. No one knew what kind of conflict she had with Jia Qingqing that she would do something as intense as perishing together. After the incident became a big deal, Xinhui Entertainment tried to delete the post and the topic, but it was impossible. Instead, it made the netizens even angrier. Therefore, in order to appease the public's discontent, Xinhui could only issue a statement, saying that it would severely investigate Jia Qingqing's maliciously slandering Ning Xi. As for the matter of Jia Qingqing being a kept woman, the company had not said anything yet. It ambiguously said that it would conduct further investigation. Obviously, it was still reluctant to give up on Jia Qingqing, who had spent a lot of money to cultivate. Ning Xi didn't have a chance today. She had planned to have a good rest at home, but the matter had become so big that she was destined to be restless. She had just finished breakfast when she was called to the company. Ning Xi, Cheng Li, Jia Qingqing, and the Director of Public Relations, Feng Haoang, were all present in the meeting room. Jia Qingqing lowered her head, and there were two heavy dark circles under her eyes. As soon as she saw Ning Xi, she stood up as if she had been injected with chicken blood. Ning Xi, you bitch! Are you proud of yourself now? Just you wait, I won't let you off. Ning Xi picked her ears helplessly. It was the same lines every time. She was almost getting calluses from listening to them. Shut up. Haven't you made enough trouble? Feng Haoang scolded impatiently. Jia Qingqing was very unwilling, but she could only sit down aggrievedly. Her cowardly godfather had lost contact with them as soon as their affair was exposed. Now her fate was completely in Feng Haoang's hands. Sit down. Feng Haoang said to Ning Xi. He looked hesitant and seemed to be making a decision. At this time, Cheng Li said, Ning Xi, you should already know what happened last night, so I won't explain more. Here's the thing. Later, Qingqing will send an apology letter for slandering you. You can respond to it and say that you are also at fault. Be magnanimous and say that you forgive her. Ning Xi tried to persuade her, Junior sister Ning, I know you feel uncomfortable, but you are indeed at fault in this matter. You can't implicate the company for your personal grudges. The only way now is to minimize the impact. Ning Xi calmly looked at Ning Xi, who was trying to protect the company, and said quietly, Senior sister, if I remember correctly, it was Jia Qingqing who set me up from the beginning to the end. I always remember Sister Cheng's teaching and don't lose face for the company. Everything I do is for the company's interests. I swallowed my anger and didn't dare to trouble the company even though I was slandered. It was not until some kind-hearted netizens and people in the same industry stood up for me that I was cleared. Now the netizens and fans are protesting against Jia Qingqing being a mistress. It's clear that Jia Qingqing is unilaterally disregarding the company's interests, framing artists of the same company and tarnishing the company's image. Senior sister, do you mean that a mad dog chased after a person and fell into a ditch and died? How can it be a person's fault? If she sent this Weibo post to forgive Jia Qingqing, the reputation that she had spent so much effort to clear up would definitely be ruined. Wasn't it stupid to forgive such a person when the public was so agitated? Ning Xi was almost choked to death by Ning Xi's words. What kind of kind-hearted netizens? It was her who exposed the scandals. How could she be so innocent and calm? Jia Qingqing, who had been quiet for a while, was immediately provoked by these words. Ning Xi, who are you calling a mad dog? Make it clear. You. Seeing that Jia Qingqing was about to make a scene again, Feng Haoang interrupted her. You don't have to send an apology letter. Really? Jia Qingqing immediately looked happy, but the next second, she heard Feng Haoang continued, Qingqing, write a statement to quit the entertainment circle. Jia Qingqing immediately screamed, What? You want me to quit the entertainment circle? Why should I quit the entertainment circle? I don't want to write that kind of thing. Feng Haoang looked impatient. I asked you to write it yourself to show you respect. Don't be so shameless. She's just a mistress. There are so many actresses in the entertainment circle who are mistresses. Why should I quit the entertainment circle? Jia Qingqing was not convinced. Because only you are stupid enough to let everyone know. What does this have to do with me? It's all because that bitch, Han Ying, betrayed me. Why didn't you go after her? She has already resigned. How am I supposed to pursue this matter? Han Ying is the agent with the best temper in the company. Ask yourself honestly, other than her, who else can stand your temper? It's fine if you always yell at her, but when her son had a high fever of 40 degrees and wanted to go to the hospital, you wouldn't let her go no matter what. In the end, when she rushed over in the middle of the night, her son was so sick that he was admitted to the ICU. He's still in critical condition. Feng Haoang scolded them one by one. Not to mention Han Ying, even he was tired of dealing with Jia Qingqing's messes. Jia Qingqing did not think that she had done anything wrong. Instead, she said nonchalantly, I'm not dead, am I? In that kind of situation, there was a doctor. Even if she went, it would be useless. Did she really have to torture me like this? Until now, Jia Qingqing still could not understand why Han Ying, who had always been a coward, would suddenly do such a thing. She had divorced her husband, and her son was a medicine jar. He needed a lot of medical fees every month. Without this job, how was she going to support the family? No matter how she guessed, she would never have guessed that a character like Liang Feixing would personally deal with a small fry like her. Feng Haoang pinched his forehead and finally gave up on communicating. Arguing with a fool was definitely the most idiotic thing to do. The company had spent a lot of effort on Jia Qingqing, but this matter was destined to be irreversible. No matter how big the loss was, they could only abandon her. Seeing that Feng Haoang had made up his mind, Jia Qingqing hurriedly pounced on Ning Xi like a life-saving straw. Sister Xi, please help me. Let Sister Chen carry me. I promise I'll be obedient. I promise to send an apology letter. When Cheng Li heard this, she was immediately horrified. He wanted her to take over Jia Qingqing? Ning Xi wouldn't trick her like that, would she? Of course, Ning Xi wouldn't be as stupid as Jia Qingqing. She said with embarrassment and regret, Qingqing, it's not that I don't want to help you. You heard Ningxi's words just now. She doesn't want to help. Besides, this is the company's decision. I can't do anything about it. As soon as the news came out, she knew that Jia Qingqing was doomed. Feng Haoang just wanted to use her last bit of value to drag Ning Xi into trouble. Unfortunately, Feng Haoang had already seen that an apology was useless and might drag another artist of the company into trouble. In the end, he gave up Jia Qingqing. She had thought that it was a good knife to deal with Ning Xi, but who knew that she was so stupid that she not only fell into it, but also made Ning Xi popular. How could she waste energy on such a person? Ning Xi, you bitch, whore, just you wait, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Jia Qingqing finally lost all hope and vented her anger on Ning Xi. In the end, Feng Haoang asked the security guards to pull her out. Towards this kind of person, Ning Xi didn't even detest him, only pity him. Even now, he still didn't know that he had been used as cannon fodder. Feng Haoang looked at Ning Xi and his expression softened a lot. Ning Xi, work hard on this film. If the effect is good, the company will focus on training you. But what Shui Luo said just now is also reasonable. It is better for you to keep a low profile and not attract unnecessary trouble. From Ning Xi's involvement in the scandal to Jia Qingqing's withdrawal from the entertainment circle, the whole thing was like a perfect crisis PR. Although Feng Haoang had always suspected that someone was behind it, he couldn't find any flaws, so he could only attribute it to Ning Xi's good luck. Thank you, Director Feng. I will. Ning Xi pretended to be surprised and frightened. After leaving the conference room, Ning Xi went to the washroom and Ning Xi followed her. Ning Xi crossed her arms over her chest and looked at her sarcastically. Ning Xi, aren't you afraid that you'll be exposed one day by digging up other people's dirt? Ning Xi narrowed her eyes coldly. Then she turned around and said nonchalantly, who doesn't have any scandals in this circle? Haven't you, Miss Ning? Ning Xi deliberately emphasized the title of Miss Ning, and then pretended to be in a trance. Speaking of which, I suddenly realized that the title of Jia Qingqing, the fake daughter but the real mistress, is surprisingly suitable for you. Wouldn't I be able to save on the title when I attack you? Ning Xi felt as if someone had stepped on her sore foot. She immediately said angrily, what fake daughter? I've been in the Ning family since I was born, and I'm the only daughter my father has acknowledged. As for Suyan, you're the one who's useless and can't keep his heart. Do you think anyone will believe your nonsense? Ning Xi drawled. Then, do you want to try? Why don't I just release my little secret too? I still haven't found the whereabouts of the 2 male prostitutes you bribed. Maybe I can find something unexpected if I look for them publicly. This time Ning Xi face completely changed and she almost screamed, Ning Xi, you lunatic. She was not afraid that Ning Xi would overestimate herself and want to compete with her for status. What she was most afraid of was that Ning Xi would bite her to death at all costs. Haha. Looking at Ning Xi pale face, Ning Xi couldn't help chuckling and patted her shoulder with a relaxed expression. Miss Ning, don't worry. I'm just joking. A scum like you doesn't deserve me to die with you. Speaking of this, Ning Xi's careless eyes suddenly became extremely cold. She lowered her voice and whispered in her ear like a devil crawling out of hell, but, if you threaten me with that thing again in the future, it's hard to guarantee that I won't lose control of myself and do something bad. In the words of your stupid teammate, even if I die, I will die with you? Jia Qingqing, that idiot, is just outwardly strong but inwardly weak. But I'm different? With that, Ning Xi let go of Ning Xi shoulder and left. Ning Xi failed to threaten Ning Xi and was threatened instead. As soon as Ning Xi left, she instantly collapsed to the ground and then kicked the door heavily with a gloomy face. No, she must find a way to get rid of Ning Xi. Otherwise, as long as she existed, everything she had might disappear at any time. She would never allow this to happen. After leaving the company, Ning Xi had nothing to do in the afternoon and was going to the shopping mall. Last time she promised to buy clothes for Xiaobao. At the thought of Xiaobao, her gloomy mood instantly brightened and she happily went shopping. After arriving, Ning Xi went straight to the children's clothing area. Seeing all kinds of children's clothing, Ning Xi was so excited that she plunged into it. She was even crazier than when she usually bought clothes by herself. Speaking of it, some aspects of her life had really changed dramatically after she met Xiaobao. In the past, when she passed by baby products stores, children's clothing stores and other similar places, she always took a detour. Now when she saw these things, she no longer thought of those suffocating memories, but cute little buns. She wanted to buy cute and fun things for him as long as she saw them. It was just like falling in love. The things in this shopping mall were all big brands and generally very expensive, including children's clothing. But since they were for Xiaobao, she was naturally willing to spend them. She could save money by buying fewer sets of cosmetics. Today, Ning Xi was wearing a dress designed by an unknown designer whom she liked very much. Although it was beautiful, it was a pity that it was no match for a famous brand logo. The shop assistant liked to order according to the person, so she didn't pay attention to her. Instead, she attentively followed behind a lady wearing a full set of Chanel. Ning Xi wandered around and finally saw a set of clothes in the corner that attracted her very much. This was a sapphire blue suit. Not only was the color super eye-catching, but there was also a Superman badge with S written inside the triangle on the chest. Most importantly, she had a lot of clothes with Superman elements, so she could wear parent-child outfits with Xiaobao at any time. Ning Xi's heart skipped a beat when the word parent-child outfit suddenly popped up in her mind. She suddenly realized that this feeling of wanting to give the best to the other party was actually the feeling of treating one's own child. Ning Xi was silent for a long time with complicated feelings. Then she went to the shop assistant and said, "Miss, I want this set of clothes. Please wrap it up for me." The shop assistant did not respond immediately. Instead, she reminded him coldly, "This set costs 12,000. I know. Did you see the tag? Please wrap it up for me." The shop assistant's expression softened a little. She smiled and said softly, "Do you need me to wrap it into a gift box for you?" Before Ning Xi could respond, a hand wearing a jade bracelet suddenly reached in and snatched the clothes. "Oh, this is good. I want it." I'm sorry, the lady next to you has already taken a fancy to this dress," the shop assistant reminded apologetically. The woman who snatched the dress was the Chanel lady from earlier. She raised her chin unhappily. "Have you paid for it?" "Well, I haven't. If you haven't paid for it, it's ownerless. I want this one. Give me the bill immediately," Chanel ordered in a matter-of-fact tone. As soon as she finished speaking, her hand suddenly felt empty. The dress was already in Ning Xi's hands. Chanel immediately became angry. "Why did you snatch my dress?" Ning Xi's tone was even more matter-of-fact than hers. "Didn't you say that if you haven't paid for it, it's ownerless? You can snatch it, but others can't. You." Chanel was about to explode, but she suddenly stared at Ning Xi's face in bewilderment. "Ning Xi? You're Ning Xi?" As if she had discovered something funny, Chanel pulled her companion over. Xian, come and see who this is. That country bumpkin from the Ning family actually came to a place like this to snatch my dress. You mean Ning Xi? How is that possible?" Her companion looked at the woman in front of her in surprise. She had a head of naturally long black curly hair, perfect vintage makeup, and the light purple off-shoulder dress she was wearing was not from a famous brand, but it was especially fitting for her temperament. She exuded a sense of arrogance and nobility, and there was no trace of the timid country girl from before. "It's her? I wouldn't mistake this face for someone else. A country girl is a country girl. She just changed her skin, and it's a low-quality skin at that." Chanel's tone was firm. Her companion looked at her carefully again and found that the face was indeed Ning Xi's. In fact, Ning Xi had a pretty good foundation 5 years ago, but she didn't know how to dress up at all and always looked like a country bumpkin. The dress that she wore at the banquet was obviously a size too big, the color was old-fashioned, and it was even an imitation. It left a deep impression. Why would she buy children's clothes for no reason? I've never heard that she's married. Who knows which wild man it is? Maybe she's pregnant before marriage. Didn't Suyan dump her because she cheated and fooled around with another man? The two women echoed each other for a long time, and Ning Xi finally remembered who they were. Chanel's name was Ying Fanglin, and her companion's name was Jin Xian. They were both socialites in that circle, members of Ning Luo's boudoir group. They were also the ones who teased her the most back then. Later on, she heard that Ying Fanglin had married well and had given birth to a son for her husband in the first year of their marriage, so she became even more arrogant. Jin Xian also had a fiancé with a good family background. He didn't expect to find such a good item in the children's clothing section. These two people didn't seem to know that she had entered the entertainment circle. Ning Xi didn't want to argue with them in public, so she ignored them and said to the shop assistant, "Miss, please pay the bill for me." Although the two of them were not to be trifled with, Ning Xi saw them first, so the shop assistant quickly gave her a bill and swiped her card. However, there was a problem when he swiped the card. The shop assistant's expression was a little ugly. "I'm sorry, miss, but your card balance is insufficient." "What?" Ning Xi was dumbfounded. Only then did Ning Xi remember that she had replaced her car with an imported engine last month, so she didn't have much money left on her card. Ying Fanglin immediately laughed at the situation. "Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. You don't have any money, but you're still trying to impress me." Jin Xian shrugged her shoulders in disdain. "I thought I'd make some progress after studying abroad for a few years, but a pheasant will always be a pheasant. You'll never become a phoenix." Ying Fanglin looked at the shop assistant proudly. "Miss, can you give me this set of clothes now?" "Yes, madam," the shop assistant said as she reached for the clothes in Ning Xi's hand. Ning Xi didn't let go. Ying Fanglin immediately shouted, "What? You don't have money, but you want to be pretentious? Do you think you're in the countryside?" Ning Xi held the clothes in one hand and took out a black card from her bag with the other. She handed it to the shop assistant and said, "Swipe this." Ning Xi had planned to pay for it herself as a gift to Little Bun, but she hadn't expected such an embarrassing situation. She really liked this dress. She felt uncomfortable at the thought of Little Bun being robbed by Ying Fanglin. In the end, she took out the black card Lu Tingxiao gave her to pay for it. The moment Ning Xi took out the card, the shop assistant and the two women were dumbfounded. The shop assistant was experienced and knowledgeable, so she naturally recognized the card at a glance. Ying Fanglin and Jin Xianxian had never seen the real thing, but women in that circle were naturally more interested in these things, so they immediately recognized it as the king of cards, the limited edition black gold card with unlimited overdraft. The threshold for this card was extremely high, the annual fee was terrifying, and the service was top-notch around the world. Since it wasn't released to the public, one couldn't apply for it. Instead, one of the platinum card users was invited to apply for it, so one couldn't get it even if one had the money. Those who could get this card were all politicians, billionaires, and celebrities from various countries. Ying Fanglin's face stiffened and she snorted. Is it a fake card? Miss, you have to check it carefully. Although the shop assistant had seen it before, she had only seen it once. She cautiously took the card and began to operate the card machine. 10 seconds later, the shop assistant immediately put on a smiling face and bowed 90 degrees. Miss, it's done. I'll help you wrap it up. Ning Xi nodded. Thank you. Ying Fanglin and Jin Xianxian were dumbfounded. They looked at Ning Xi as if they had seen a ghost. Ning Xi took the wrapped dress and turned to leave. Watching Ning Xi leave in high heels, Ying Fanglin gritted her teeth and said maliciously, "What are you so proud of? You must be the mistress of some rich old man? Do you think you can marry into a rich family just because you gave birth to a son for him? Yes, you'll be killed by the legal wife one day." Jin Xianxian echoed. After leaving the children's clothing area, Ning Xi passed by the men's clothing area on her way downstairs. Well, it seemed to be the brand that Lu Tingxiao usually wore. The overall style was very similar to Lu Tingxiao's, with black, white and grey as the main colors, looking aloof and abstinent. After a few glances, her eyes moved to a young brand next door that was popular in recent years. In comparison, the color and style were much more youthful and lively. Ning Xi touched her chin and suddenly wanted to buy Lu Tingxiao a set of clothes. Women were creatures that originally wanted to buy a pair of shoes, but ended up buying clothes, bags, jewelry, and a bunch of other things to match it. Thus, after buying it for Little Bun, the more she thought about it, the more she couldn't resist the urge to have Lu Tingxiao have a similar style. After hesitating for 3 minutes, Ning Xi made her choice. Buy. Therefore, she entered the store and directly bought the sapphire blue suit that the mannequin at the door was wearing, which was the same color as Xiao Bao. At the same time, Lu Tingxiao, who was listening to Lu Jingli's report in the president's office of Lu Group, received 2 text messages in a row. He opened it and saw that it was a consumer notification from the bank. Ning Xi swiped his card. A satisfied smile appeared on Lu Tingxiao's solemn and indifferent face. Lu Jingli looked at his brother's expression and understood. Sister-in-law's message. Lu Tingxiao, no, that's strange. Lu Jingli immediately looked over the table curiously. Hey, aren't they just 2 text notifications from the bank? And they're consumer notifications, not revenue notifications? Was there a need to put on such a sweet expression? Tisk tisk, men in love are sometimes really hard to understand. In the evening, Ning Xi went straight to the Lu's house with the spoils. Seeing the old butler watering the flowers at the door, Ning Xi hurriedly greeted him. Grandpa Butler, where is Xiaobao? The old butler was dressed in a black tuxedo with a neat bow tie. When he saw Ning Xi, he said respectfully, Miss Xioxi is back. Young master is painting in the garden. Ah, he is painting. I won't disturb him. Where is Mr. Lu? Young master is upstairs. Okay, thank you. Ning Xi went upstairs happily. Looking at the girl's energetic back, the old butler had mixed feelings. During this period of time, no matter how wary he was, he couldn't help but have a good impression of this little girl. She was beautiful and sweet, and she was destined to be popular everywhere. What was rare was that she had a sense of propriety. She had never shown any intention to cross the line with young master, and she even didn't pay attention to her image most of the time. In fact, it was very easy to see whether a woman had an intention to a man or not. She could hide it for 1 or 2 days, but after a long time, it was absolutely impossible to hide it. Similarly, it was easy to see whether a man had an intention to a woman or not. Others might not know, but he had seen it from the beginning to the end, so he knew it best. Young master obviously cared about this girl very much. The guest room she lived in was actually designed by young master himself. Even the bedsheets, curtains, clothes, and jewelry in the wardrobe were all handpicked by him. Not only that, on the first day she came here, he told the kitchen her eating habits one by one. Every time she came home late, he must leave food for her. There were so many similar details. Even if it was because she was the young master's savior, the eldest young master's meticulous actions seemed to be too much. In fact, as long as the young lady's family background was clean, it would not be a bad thing if she could be with the eldest young master. Ever since the young lady moved in, the eldest young master had become more and more lively, and the youngest young master had also become more and more cheerful. He had watched the eldest young master and the youngest young master grow up, so he was naturally happy to see them. So now he was not worried that Ning Xi had an ulterior motive, but that she had no ulterior motive. After going upstairs, Ning Xi couldn't wait to share her spoils, so she directly opened the door of Lu Tingxiao's bedroom. Lu Tingxiao's hair was wet, his upper body naked, and he had a white towel wrapped around his waist. Crystal clear water droplets flowed down his tight abdominal muscles and into his V-line. Ning Xi's first reaction wasn't to close her eyes, but to open them wide instead of closing them. She was very repulsed by sex, but this did not prevent her from appreciating beautiful things. Perhaps it was because she had suffered too much after being betrayed that she didn't know why she had unknowingly gone astray. 5 years ago, she was so conservative that she would be shy when she saw a man wearing a singlet and shorts. She wouldn't talk to any stranger except Suyan, and she wouldn't even take a second look at other handsome men. After about 5 seconds, Ning Xi came to her senses. She turned around and covered her eyes with 2 paper bags. Sorry, I forgot to knock on the door. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. It's my fault. I forgot to lock the door. Actually, it wasn't that he had forgotten. Ever since she moved in, he had never locked the door. Why are you looking for me? Wait a minute. I'll get dressed first. The girl's short but long gaze was like a fire that ignited every inch of his skin. Fortunately, she turned around in time. Otherwise, he might have lost control of a certain part of his body and exposed himself again. Lu Tingxiao was about to open the cabinet to get clothes when Ning Xi suddenly shouted, no, don't wear clothes? Lu Tingxiao didn't expect the girl to make such a request. He was obviously stunned. Then he stared at the girl's back and said with a slightly raised tone, what? Although he was quite happy to fulfill the little girl's beautiful request. Realizing that her words were too ambiguous, Ning Xi hurriedly spat, don't misunderstand? I meant it literally, there's no deeper meaning behind it? It seems that the literal meaning is also very dirty. Ahem, anyway, what I mean is, I bought you a set of clothes when I was shopping today. Do you want to try it on? If you try it on now, you don't have to put it on and take it off to try it on later. Am I very smart? Lu Tingxiao was a little surprised when he heard that. He seemed a little flattered, you bought it for me. He thought she must have bought it for Xiaobao. Yes, but, I used your card. Ning Xi touched her nose awkwardly. Actually, I was going to buy it with my own money at first as a gift for Xiaobao, who knew that I would lose a motorcycle engine last month and have no money on my card, so I had to use your card. Later, when I passed by, I found an adult men's suit that matched the color and style of the one I bought for Xiaobao, so I couldn't help but buy it. I see. Although she didn't buy it for him, it was enough to make him happy. I asked the shop assistant. If you don't like it, you can return it. Hurry up and try it on to see if you like it. Ning Xi urged. Lu Tingxiao said without hesitation, I like it. She bought it herself and it was the first time she bought clothes for him. How could he not like it? You haven't seen what it looks like. Ning Xi muttered and took a step back. She stretched out her hand and handed one of the bags to him. Lu Tingxiao took the bag. You only bought it for me and Xiaobao. You didn't buy it for yourself. Ning Xi sighed. I'm short of money. I'll buy it after I get the money. Lu Tingxiao was just about to say that she could use his card when Ning Xi took out a black card from the bag. Oh yes, I'll return this to you. It's quite cool to use. Today, I angered a woman who wanted to snatch my clothes to death. Lu Tingxiao could only sigh and change his words. Take it first. I'm usually busy and don't have time to buy things for Xiaobao. If you see something suitable, just buy it. Of course, I'd be happy to let you choose something for me. You trust my taste so much? Just don't take it off on the spot after you try it. With that, Ning Xi took back the card. Then I'll give it back to you when I leave. Hurry up and change your clothes, I'll go out first. Just as she was about to take a step forward, her empty hand was suddenly grabbed by the man from behind. Ning Xi was startled and subconsciously wanted to turn around, but then she remembered that Lu Tingxiao was still naked, so she could only awkwardly maintain the posture of being held back. What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao slightly tightened his grip on her slender wrist. Ning Xi, Xiaobao's condition has been much better recently. He doesn't always pester you. He's very obedient and won't disturb you or affect your work. He just wants to see you every day, wait for you every day, and be happy and at ease every day knowing that you sleep next door to him. I know I have no reason to keep you, but as a father, I can do too little for Xiaobao. I really hope that Xiaobao's happiness can last a little longer. 3 months. Can I stay for another 3 months at most? When you want to leave, I won't force you to stay. During this period of time, you can treat this place as your own home and do whatever you want without any scruples. You can occasionally swear angrily, eat durian and garlic, drink in bars and come back very late. I only have one request for you. In these 3 months, don't bring a man back, okay? Ning Xi was almost moved to tears when she heard the first part, but when she heard the last part, she almost vomited blood. The more she listened, the more she felt that Lu Tingxiao was a gentle, virtuous, and obedient wife, while she was a scumbag husband who indulged in debauchery. Ning Xi put on a long face. Lu Tingxiao, are you sure you want to chat with me in this state? Put on your clothes first and we'll talk, okay? Otherwise, it would be hard for her to concentrate and think. Okay. Lu Tingxiao's voice finally came from behind. Ning Xi felt as if she had been pardoned and rushed out of the room. Lu Tingxiao must be a born orator. Every word he said hit her heart, especially the one about Xiaobao. But if she continued to stay here for 3 months, she was afraid that it would be a little inappropriate. Just as she was in a dilemma, her legs suddenly softened. She looked down and saw that Xiaobao had run over and was hugging her calf as usual, holding a painting in his hand. Ning Xi squatted down and hugged the little boy. Baby, are you done? Xiaobao nodded. What is it? Can auntie take a look? Xiaobao immediately handed the painting to her. Ning Xi's eyes became moist with just one look. The person in the painting was still her. The colors in the painting were very bright and dreamy. She was lying on a small bed, holding a storybook in her hand. But the angle of Xiao Bao's painting was the angle of him lying beside her and looking up at her. The entire painting was filled with Xiao Bao's happiness and contentment as he stuck to her side and listened to her story with his head raised. Baby, it's really well painted. Ning Xi's heart was completely tilted. She took a deep breath to calm down and kissed the little boy's forehead. Then she said happily, Auntie bought you new clothes. Do you want to try them on? Xiao Bao nodded with sparkling eyes. When Ning Xi helped Xiao Bao change and was about to go find Lu Tingxiao had also changed and walked out of the room. Ning Xi was quite confident in the clothes she bought for Xiao Bao, but she was not so sure about Lu Tingxiao's. After all, she had never seen Lu Tingxiao wear clothes other than black, white, and grey, not to mention a color like royal blue. But when she saw Lu Tingxiao in the clothes, Ning Xi was completely dumbfounded. This was too suitable. She had thought that it might look very abrupt or nondescript, but she did not expect the upper body to be so good. It fully displayed his broad shoulders, narrow hips, and long legs. Most importantly, the dull and solemn temperament instantly became bright and lively, and even he looked a lot younger. Lu Tingxiao was pleased by the undisguised amazement in the girl's eyes. How is it? Ning Xi nodded vigorously. Too handsome? I feel like I can be a groom with a big red flower hanging on my chest. Lu Tingxiao. This girl's way of praising people was really unique. Don't you think so, Xiao Bao? Is your papa handsome? Ning Xi lowered her head and asked the pocket-sized version of Lu Tingxiao. Although Xiao Bao didn't like his father very much, he had to admit that his father looked much better than his usual tanned appearance. Thus, he nodded in respect. Ning Xi immediately snapped her fingers proudly. I didn't expect my eyes to be so good. Of course, it's mainly because President Lu has a good foundation and looks good no matter what you wear. But I think it's okay. You'd better wear more bright colors like this. The employees will be in a good mood when they see you, and they will be more efficient. Hearing the words a good foundation is handsome no matter what I wear, Lu Tingxiao couldn't help smiling. Well, if you see something suitable in the future, buy it for me. Okay, leave it to me. Ning Xi patted her chest confidently. Then she became more and more excited as she looked at the two of them. Oh, I can't help it. I really want to take photos of you. Come here, stand together, stand closer, hold hands. The father and son gave the instructions step by step and cooperated very well with each other. The more Ning Xi took photos, the more addicted she became. She completely turned into a fangirl. She took several photos of the father and son on the balcony, the study, and the small garden. Lu Tingxiao stood beside her. He leaned over to take a closer look and praised, very good shot. Ning Xi waved her hand modestly and said, my composition skills are average, and I'm using a mobile phone. But you two models are too good, and the backgrounds are very good, so every picture looks like a blockbuster. By the way, Lu Tingxiao, do you have WeChat? I'll add you and send you the photo. I wanted to say this before, who still uses SMS these days, it's too troublesome. Teach Xiao Bao how to use WeChat in the future. Yes, search my phone number. Lu Tingxiao was glad that Lu Jingli had forced him to open WeChat. Your nickname is Lu Tingxiao. How uncreative. Ning Xi complained as she added Lu Tingxiao as a friend. Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows and subconsciously looked at Ning Xi's nickname, only to find that he couldn't recognize Chinese characters. The arrows fall from the sky? Why is this nickname so strange? What does that mean? Lu Tingxiao really wanted to ask, but he was afraid that it was internet language. If he asked, it would expose the generation gap between them like last time, so he chose to keep his mouth shut. After adding each other as friends, Ning Xi sent all the photos to him. When Lu Tingxiao collected the photos, he inadvertently noticed that Ning Xi's signature was, one day, with a sword in hand, I will kill all the heartless dogs in the world. Lu Tingxiao. After Ning Xi sent the photo, she realized that Lu Tingxiao was staring at her autograph with a complicated gaze. Embarrassed, she explained awkwardly, well, this is my autograph from when I was a Chuyunibyo. I forgot to change it. Isn't it shocking? Lu Tingxiao chuckled. It's all right. One day, he would be the one to make her change her signature. Ning Xi scratched her head and explained, and my nickname, it's called Martian. It was quite popular on the internet in those days. Now it's pretty awesome, but I'm used to it and don't want to change it. Not bad, can you help me change to a similar one? Lu Tingxiao requested. Huh? You really think it's not bad? Ning Xi was shocked by Lu Tingxiao's taste. Yes. Lu Tingxiao's expression was very serious. Then, I'll think of one for you later. Ning Xi regretted it as soon as she agreed. It was hard to imagine the expressions of Lu Tingxiao's friends in WeChat when they saw that he had changed his nickname to Martian. That scene was so beautiful. Thank you. Lu Tingxiao rarely logged into WeChat. Not long after he logged in, he saw a lot of messages popping up in his family group. It turned out that the two elders of the Lu family were complaining to their relatives that they hadn't seen their grandson for a long time. Their eldest brother seemed to have a girl he liked recently and was pursuing her passionately, so they didn't dare to disturb him at his place. That tone was more like showing off than complaining. Our boss finally has a girl he likes. It's a girl? Lu Tingxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his parents' tone. Then he casually sent all the photos that Ning Xi had just sent to him to the group. Thus, a few seconds later, the entire family group exploded. Everyone's first reaction was that Lu Tingxiao, who had been lurking for thousands of years, had appeared in the family chat group. Their second reaction was, "Oh my god, this father and son pair are just like the characters in the pictorial. I want to steal Xiaobao home. I want to marry my daughter to him." If it weren't for the fact that close relatives were not allowed to marry in this society, countless daughters in the family chat group would have been fighting over this. "Oh, my dear grandson is so cute. Oh, my son is so handsome." Old Madame Lu was so excited that she didn't know who to praise first. "Tingxiao, who chose the clothes for you and Xiaobao? Is it the girl you like?" Old Madame Lu could tell that this was definitely not her son's aesthetic style. "Yes, I knew you wouldn't choose this style of clothes. Look at how bright and beautiful this color is. Unlike you, who only knows how to wear gray all day long and make Xiaobao look gray. This family really needs a woman. Did she take the photos too?" Old Master Lu couldn't help but ask. "Yes." Lu Tingxiao replied with a single word of truth. "Not bad." Old Master Lu was obviously very satisfied. Lu Tingxiao didn't like to take photos when he was young, and Xiaobao didn't like to take photos either. Therefore, there were very few photos of the father and son, and even fewer of them together. This group of photos was silently treasured by the two elders. "Oh my god, my future sister-in-law is so amazing. She actually has the ability to make you wear this kind of clothes and take photos for her. I gave you a set before, the color was similar to this, but you looked at it with disdain and criticized my aesthetic style." This time, it was Lu Jingli who spoke. Even Lu Jingli came out and called her future sister-in-law. The 7 aunties couldn't hold it in any longer, and all of them were asking Lu Tingxiao which girl he had his eyes on. Lu Tingxiao directly replied with 2 words, "Private matter." What he meant was that this was my private matter, and no one was allowed to interfere. Therefore, those who were eager to find out what was going on didn't dare to act rashly. In the entire Lu family, Lu Tingxiao was the core helmsman, like the head of the dragon. The glory and honor of the Lu family all depended on him, and his words were undoubtedly the imperial edict. At this moment, there was another person who saw the photos and chat records in the group, Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei stared at the sentence, "Is it the girl you like?" for a long time and immediately sent a private message to Ning Xi. "Ning Xioxi, did you take photos of Lu Tingxiao and Xiaobao?" "Yeah, how did you know? Did you see us?" Ning Xi remembered that Zhang Wei didn't have a chance today either. Could it be that he sneaked here again? "Humph, my uncle is showing off in the family. Everyone is praising him." Ning Xi was happy when she saw that. She typed, "Ha ha ha, really? Are you praising me for being a good photographer?" Zhang Wei was so angry that he almost smashed his phone. "Can you focus on something else? Then what should I pay attention to? Let me tell you, just now." Zhang Wei wanted to say that Lu Tingxiao had just admitted in the group that the photos were taken by the girl he liked. But when he thought that she didn't believe him even though he had said it 3 times in a row, he suddenly felt that this evidence was not enough. It was very likely that he would be beaten again. So he decided to find evidence that she couldn't deny next time to convince her. "We have a scene tomorrow. Don't be late." Zhang Wei changed the topic. "When have I ever been late? If I'm not mistaken, it will be a kissing scene. If you dare to eat the garlic durian, you will be dead, understand?" After dinner, Ning Xi went to see Lu Tingxiao after some hesitation. On the quiet balcony, Lu Tingxiao did not rush her. He just stood there silently, patiently waiting for her reply. Ning Xi took a deep breath, turned to the man beside her, and finally made up her mind. "Lu Tingxiao, I've thought about what you said. I promise you that I can stay for 3 more months, but I have to leave after that." Even if there was nothing between them, it would be too easy for an unmarried woman to live in someone else's house, which would cause unnecessary misunderstanding. "Thank you." Lu Tingxiao breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, there was a hidden glint in his eyes. "Do you have any scenes tomorrow?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ning Xi sighed and nodded. "Yes." Lu Tingxiao saw her hesitation and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Is it difficult tomorrow?" Ning Xi rested her chin on the railing and said, "It's not difficult. It's just a kissing scene. But my partner is Zhang Wei, and I'm afraid that I'll dance. What if I can't control myself and hit him halfway? It's also possible that I'll laugh." Kissing scene. Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes. Although he had known that there would be such scenes in the film, he had been deliberately avoiding the question, because he was afraid that he would do something that would make her hate him. Suddenly, Ning Xi thought of something and patted her head. "Ah, Lu Tingxiao, I have something to thank you for." "What is it?" Lu Tingxiao asked absent-mindedly. "I just learned that the investor was second young Master Lu. You asked me to be the second female lead, didn't you? So, thank you." Ning Xi thanked him sincerely. "I'm glad you don't blame me. I'm not that ungrateful. Of course I should thank you. You're welcome. It's just a convenience." In fact, he did all this for her, and Zhang Wei was just a convenience. Ning Xi thought hard and said, "I also took advantage of you. It's not sincere to thank you. How about I cook for you and Xiaobao when I'm free? Although I'm too lazy to cook, I can cook well. If I hadn't entered the entertainment circle, I would have been a chef." Lu Tingxiao chuckled. "I'm looking forward to it." The next day, when Ning Xi arrived at the studio city, she saw a large group of young girls surrounding the shooting site from afar. In the middle of them was a particularly dazzling golden head. At first glance, she knew that it was Zhang Wei and his female fans. Ning Xi subconsciously wanted to take a detour, but just as she was about to slip away, there was a scream from the crowd. Ah, it's Ning Xi? Ning Xi thought to herself that she was doomed. She was about to protect her face when the group of little girls suddenly lined up in front of her and bowed together, saying in unison, "Sorry." After apologizing, the little girls stared at her with starry eyes and started talking at the same time. "Miss Ning Xi, I'm sorry. We misunderstood you. Please don't lower yourself to our level. You must continue to act the role of Meng Chang'e. That's right. Your acting was amazing, and we all loved your scenes with Mu Ye. I've been playing those dozens of seconds of footage at home for the whole day." Ning Xi was confused by this group of girls and subconsciously looked at Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei walked over in a good mood and explained, "Didn't director Guo release some highlights of the filming? One of them was the binding scene we did that day. Then, they turned from hater to fan. Really, are they so happy to see me being suppressed? Ah, so that was it." Fans were infatuated with stars and rarely wanted to have any interaction with them in real life, because it was too unrealistic. Therefore, movies and TV series became the channel for fans to fantasize. If a female star wanted to act with your idol, your first reaction might be a little jealousy. Especially if the female star was in a bad situation, you might feel it was unfair to your idol and resist it. But on the contrary, the fans would take the role of the person acting with their idol and get great satisfaction from it. That was Ning Xi's current situation. Mue, I heard that you have a lot of intimate scenes. Is it true? Will there be a kissing scene?" A fan asked excitedly. Zhang Wei raised his eyebrows. "Yes, there will be one today." Ah! There was a scream of excitement. "Can we watch? Can we? The young girls asked. "Today's scene will be outdoors. You should be able to see it from the outside, but you may not be able to see it clearly from a distance," Zhang Wei answered. "It's okay. We all brought our equipment." The young girls took out the necessary binoculars for fans. Ning Xi was speechless. With so many people watching, she was under a lot of pressure. In the lounge, Ning Xi couldn't help but ask, "You said it's a kissing scene. Which one is it?" Because so many things had happened recently, the schedule had changed a lot. She only knew the general situation and hadn't received the specific information. Zhang Wei flipped through the script excitedly. "I asked the director about the Lantern Festival scene last night." Ning Xi immediately recalled the plot. "Lantern Festival? Isn't it the first kiss scene between Meng Chang'e and Sun Huanqing?" "Yes, that's the one." Zhang Wei raised his eyebrows and sniffed her warily. "Do you remember what I said yesterday? You didn't eat anything you shouldn't have, right?" Ning Xi slapped him away. "Do I look like such an unprofessional person? You said it. If you trick me, I'll tell the director." Zhang Wei stared at her with distrust. He had been tricked by her too many times, so he didn't dare to let his guard down. Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. "How old are you? Don't tell the teacher. Aren't you childish?" Zhang Wei snorted and turned away. "I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I have to figure out how to shoot it." Ning Xi turned his chair around. "What the hell are you talking about? I'll be the one kissing you forcefully anyway. Come here, I have something to ask you." Zhang Wei was speechless. Damn it, couldn't he study how to be kissed by force? "What do you want to know?" Zhang Wei asked impatiently. "How are you handling Jia Qingqing's character?" "Of course. I heard from Ming Bro that it's going to be someone from Golden Era. I think it's a new singer. He's not bad looking, but he doesn't have any acting experience. I think he'll suck. By the way, have you heard about Jia Qingqing?" "What about Jia Qingqing?" Ning Xi was puzzled. "What else? She made such a big fuss that her legal wife found out. She called someone to strip her naked on the street and beat her up. She told her to get out of the capital, or they'll kill her the next time. I was worried that she would do something to you. Now it seems that I don't have to worry anymore." As Zhang Wei spoke, he felt something was wrong. "Ning Xi, why do I feel that things are developing surprisingly smoothly?" At this time, the director's voice came from outside. "Ning Xi, Wei, go and put on your clothes. It's your turn next." Night had just fallen, and the light was just right. The prop team had prepared everything and the extras were all in their positions. After changing, Zhang Wei was a little nervous. Speaking of which, although he had dated Ning Xi before, he had never even touched her finger, let alone kissed her. He didn't expect that his first time would be in a movie, not when he was in love. Just as he was taking a deep breath to adjust his mood, a huge force suddenly slapped him from behind. Ning Xi, who was wearing a smart outfit with a high ponytail, put her arm around his shoulder. "What are you doing, Goldie? Are you nervous? Get lost?" "I'm not nervous. I've done more kissing scenes than you've ever eaten." Zhang Wei pushed her away grumpily. His shoulder, which she had laid on, was burning hot. At this time, Guo Qixin walked over worriedly. "We can't clear the scene. Are you two okay?" Usually, in order to prevent the actors from being embarrassed, the scene would be cleared, leaving only the crew. Ning Xi shrugged her shoulders casually. "I'm okay. Senior Zhang said he has done more kissing scenes than I have eaten. Of course we don't need it." Guo Qixin laughed. "Then let's start." Then he comforted them. "This is the most important kiss in the whole movie, so I have high expectations. But you two are just getting used to each other. It doesn't matter if you don't do well at the beginning. You can try a few more times." Hearing that, Zhang Wei's mouth twitched. He didn't feel comforted at all. Instead, his heart beat faster. Damn it, It's just a kissing scene. Why are you jumping so fast? No one noticed that there were several micro high-definition cameras the size of flies hovering over their heads, and a black car was parked at the intersection of the street less than 100 meters away from the scene. The screen in front of the back seat of the car was clearly projecting every frame of the scene. Lu Tingxiao was dressed in a dark suit, and his shirt was buttoned up to the first button. His slender fingers supported his forehead, and his dark pupils reflected the light from the screen. He was silently looking at the girl who appeared on the screen after she changed her clothes. Next to him, Lu Jingli poked his head out of the car to look outside, and then looked at the screen in the car. He looked conflicted. Brother, are you really going to just watch and do nothing? It's better to stay at home. Out of sight, out of mind. After saying that, he stared at his brother's perfect side profile in the dim light and muttered to himself, if he doesn't explode in silence, he will perish in silence. Why do I always have a bad feeling about this? After all, he had grown up with Lu Tingxiao, so he understood his character very well. This guy looked especially cold and arrogant on the surface, and especially had no desires or desires. In reality, as long as it was his territory, he would have an extremely terrifying desire to possess it. Ever since Ning Xi appeared, Lu Tingxiao had been showing his bright and warm side, but Lu Jingli knew that as long as he wanted something, there was absolutely nothing he couldn't get. This was just the patience of a beast before it hunted. This kind of appearance was simply fragile, and it could explode at any time with a bang. He had been worried about Ning Xi these days. After knowing that Zhang Wei had an affair with Ning Xi, he was even more worried about him. Alas, for the sake of his nephew, he would find a chance to remind him. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how he died. The filming began. There were vendors selling lanterns and guessing riddles on both sides of the street. The bustling people were holding lanterns in their hands and laughing. Meng Chang'e forcefully dragged Sun Huanqing out of the medical center. The camera moved along with the two of them. Under the lens, the young man and girl ran quickly along the brightly lit streets of Chang'an. The scene was extremely beautiful. There weren't many lines in this scene. It was mainly about the scene and the changes in the eyes of the protagonist. Meng Chang'e was in high spirits. Sun Huanqing was reluctant at first, but was later infected by the girl's enthusiasm. The two of them shuttled through the crowd together. After walking for a while, Sun Huanqing suddenly realized that his hand was still held by the girl, so he struggled. Meng Chang'e, on the other hand, stubbornly clenched it and refused to let go, with an expression that said that this hand belonged to him. Sun Huanqing was anxious. Miss Meng, please behave yourself. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. Meng Chang'e frowned and stared at him. You bookworm, what if I let go of your hand and we get separated? So be it. Sun Huanqing was extremely embarrassed and said without thinking. Sun Huanqing? You. Meng Chang'e was so angry that he threw his hand away and went into the crowd. Sun Huanqing's expression gradually became anxious as she watched the red figure gradually disappear into the crowd. Recently, there had been rumors of a rapist appearing in the capital. Several girls had already gone missing. Today, the streets were so chaotic. What if something happened to a girl like her? At this moment, Sun Huanqing was only worried about Meng Chang'e. He had completely forgotten that she was a little devil. Even if they met a rapist, it would be their bad luck. The camera began to follow Sun Huanqing in the crowd, looking for Meng Chang'e. Just when Meng Chang'e was about to break down, he suddenly felt someone on the back of his shoulder. As soon as he turned around, he saw a person wearing a ghost mask standing in front of him. She said with a somewhat proud tone, Dr. Sun, you were looking for me. Hearing the girl's familiar voice, Sun Huanqing was ecstatic to find her again. He immediately pulled her into his arms. Meng Chang'e obviously didn't expect Sun Huanqing, who had always been conservative, to do such a thing. He suddenly froze. The next scene was the scene where Meng Chang'e took the initiative to kiss Sun Huanqing. The fans watching from afar were so excited that they held their breath and didn't dare to make a sound. This scene was the first kiss between the two of them. Just by imagining it, one could tell that it was absolutely beautiful. At the same time, there was another person who didn't even dare to breathe loudly. It was Lu Jingli, who was in the black car. Lu Jingli curled up against the window, trying to stay as far away from his brother as possible. He was so scared that he closed his eyes, not daring to look. He absolutely didn't believe that his brother would do nothing and do nothing. Just seeing Ning Xi holding Zhang Wei's hand and hugging him, the temperature in the carriage almost froze. What would happen if they really kissed? There won't be any bloody scenes later, right? No matter how hard Lu Jingli thought, he couldn't figure out what his brother would do to stop the show without offending Ning Xi. Lu Jingli carefully looked at the screen again through his fingers. Ning Xi slowly took off her mask and gazed at Zhang Wei affectionately. Then she stretched out her hand and pulled down Zhang Wei's neck. Finished, finished, finished. Someone's going to die. Lu Jingli was wailing in his heart when he suddenly saw the lanterns around him extinguish one by one. The effect was as if they were extinguished by his own brother's burning evil energy. It was incomparably frightening. Ah, it's raining! An exclamation came from the crowd. The lanterns were made of paper, and some lotus lanterns didn't even have a cover, so they were instantly extinguished by the rain. Ning Xi, who was about to kiss Zhang Wei, stopped because of this sudden change. She subconsciously covered her head with her hands. Why is it raining? Ouch, it hurts. Why is it hailing? Zhang Wei was so nervous that his heart almost stopped beating. He braked abruptly and almost fainted. Damn it! Isn't there a drought recently? It hasn't rained for months. And why is it hailing on such a hot day? Lu Tingxiao, who was in the car, was confused. It's raining? Why is it raining all of a sudden? Wait. Listen to the banging sound on the roof, there seems to be big hailstones in it. At this time, an idea flashed in Lu Tingxiao's mind. He stared at his brother, who was as still as a mountain and didn't look surprised at all. Lu Tingxiao was speechless. You even used artificial rain. Brother, you're going against the natural order? And, did you use too much force? It's hailing? Seeing that the filming had to be stopped, Lu Tingxiao's low pressure receded like a tide. His thin lips spat out two cold words, drive. Yes, young master. The driver started the engine and the black car quietly left the set in the night. Guo Qixin didn't expect such a situation. He wrung his hands on the spot. If the shooting had continued, it would have been a perfect scene. Alas, forget it. Good things are strewn with setbacks. Let's call it a day, but don't leave yet. Let's have a dinner party tonight. We must make up for the fact that we didn't have a dinner party for Muya last time, Guo Qixin said to the crowd. Recently, there had been many ups and downs in the crew. It was a good time to have a dinner party. The crew, who had been depressed because of the sudden change of weather, suddenly cheered up. Zhang Wei responded with a lack of interest. Obviously, he was in a bad mood. Ning Xi threw a towel to him. What's with your expression? Are you disappointed that I didn't force a kiss on you? Boolsh *T? That's because I'm not satisfied. I want to play with you again. Zhang Wei glared at her and then warned, you won't have anything to do tonight, will you? No? What can happen to me? Ning Xi said as she sent a message to Lu Tingxiao as usual. Zhang Wei secretly glanced at her phone to see what she was sending. Then he found something was wrong. Ning Xioxi, why did you change your WeChat ID? The original lonely shushu arrow falling was changed to Tang Xioxi. Well, because of Lu Tingxiao, Ning Xi answered. Zhang Wei's pupils constricted. Lu Tingxiao asked you to change it? He asked you to change it, so you changed it. You've been using this nickname for so many years, and no matter how much I criticized you back then, you were too lazy to change it? You actually changed it the moment he asked you to? Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. Can you calm down? Didn't he tell me to change it? Then why did you change it? It's because he didn't let me change it. He even said that my nickname was pretty good and wanted me to think of a similar one for him. Zhang Wei, F***ck? His uncle was too cruel when it came to his sister? How could he do that? Ning Xi sighed. It's okay for a rough man like me to use this nickname, but he is the president of a listed company. If I influenced him to use the Martian language, wouldn't I be a sinner? So I tried to persuade him that the Martian language was outdated. In order to prove it, I even changed my own name. Ning Xi was too lazy to type, so she sent a voice message directly. Mr. Lu, the crew is having dinner tonight. Please tell Xiaobao not to wait for me. Very quickly, Lu Tingxiao replied with a buzzing sound. It was also a message. Ning Xi clicked it. Lu Tingxiao's unique cold and concerned voice came from the phone. Okay, have fun. Ning Xioxi. Zhang Wei called her name gloomily. What? Not only are you blind, are you deaf as well? Don't you think my uncle's tone is wrong when he talks to you? Zhang Wei, are you itching for a beating again? Zhang Wei didn't say anything. Haha, Ning Xioxi, just you wait. I'll find the evidence tonight at the latest and convince you. Convinced with heart and mouth. In the Pearl Hotel, almost all the members of the crew were present for the dinner. Ning Xuluo and the others who didn't have any scenes today also came. They all welcomed Zhang Wei and the atmosphere in the room was very warm. After 3 rounds of drinking, I suddenly stood up with a glass of wine in her hand. Ning Xi, I misunderstood you before. Here's to you as an apology and also to thank you. Sister you're too polite. Ning Xi drank up the wine in her glass. Everyone cheered and then many people came to toast Ning Xi. Ning Xi didn't refuse any of them. It could be said that she wanted to solve the problem with wine. Seeing Ning Xi getting along well with the crew, Ning Xi smiled with relief. I told you that my junior sister couldn't be that kind of person. When the dinner was coming to an end, a slender figure suddenly knocked on the door and walked in. Oh, Child Su. Child Su is here. Brother Yan, why are you here? Seeing the man, Ning Xuluo immediately greeted him with surprise. In the corner, the drunk Zhang Wei immediately sobered up and stared at the elegant man in a beige suit at the door. Suyan? He was Suyan? The only man Ning Xi had ever loved? Suyan, the 10 best boyfriend, always appeared when Ning Xuluo needed help. At this time, Ning Xuluo was holding his arm and he greeted everyone with a gentle face. I'm having dinner here with my friends. I heard from Xuluo that you guys are here too. Feel free to order whatever you want to eat. Put it on my tab. The crowd jeered. Wow, young Master Su is too rich. I feel that we are all blessed by teacher Ning every time. Then we won't hold back. At this moment, a cold snort came from the corner. Why should I let you pay for my welcoming banquet? This meal is on me? As soon as Suyan appeared, Zhang Wei didn't even try to hide his hostility. Perhaps it was because his ex-boyfriend was extremely jealous of him. Suyan immediately sensed Zhang Wei's unfriendly attitude towards him, but he still put on a warm smile and said unhurriedly, since it's a welcome banquet for Mr. Zhang, you shouldn't pay for it yourself. That's right. Let us treat you. We'll do our best to be the host, Ning Xuluo echoed. Be the host my ass. I was born and raised in the capital, okay? We need you to be the host? Zhang Wei was about to lose his temper when Ning Xi secretly pressed his shoulder from behind and whispered in his ear, "Are you stupid? Why don't you use this sucker? Let him pay?" Zhang Wei's face darkened. "Humph, are you sure you're not speaking for him? This is your old lover?" Ning Xi raised her eyebrows. "Aren't you my old lover too?" Words 964 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 24 seconds. Ning Xioxi, don't change the subject. Zhang Wei's heart ached even more. He thought to himself, what kind of old lover am I? How can I compare with your childhood sweetheart, Brother Yan, who even calls out his name in your dreams? Ning Xi said helplessly, okay, I won't change the subject. Do you want to expose my relationship with you and Suyan in front of everyone? When could this guy be more mature? Zhang Wei finally stopped talking. If you want to pay, then pay, Zhang Wei said perfunctorily. Suyan frowned slightly when he saw Ning Xi whispering in Zhang Wei's ear. Was it an illusion? He had a feeling that the relationship between Ning Xi and Zhang Wei was not just limited to colleagues. Seeing Suyan looking at Ning Xi absent-mindedly, Ning Xi shook his arm to call his attention. She said in a sweet voice, "Brother Yan, did you bring the things I asked you to bring for me?" Suyan came back to his senses. Yes. Then he handed her a stack of invitation cards and said to everyone, "Tomorrow is Luo's birthday. I hope everyone can come to the birthday party tomorrow night." "Ah, tomorrow is Teacher Ning's birthday. Then we must go. Teacher Ning's birthday party must be very grand. Let's all go and broaden our horizons." Ning Xi smiled sweetly and handed out the invitation cards to everyone. When it was Ning Xi's turn, she did not forget to remind her, "Little junior sister, you must come." Ning Xi twirled the wine glass and stared at the red invitation with no expression on her face. When she handed it to Zhang Wei, he did not even move. "Don't give it to me. I won't go." Ning Xi face stiffened slightly, but she recovered her gentleness in an instant. She asked with concern, "Wei, do you have anything to do tomorrow? Can we postpone the date? I really hope you can come. Please, please." She had already promised several of Zhang Wei's close friends that she would definitely invite Zhang Wei to the party. No man would be able to refuse such a beautiful woman's request in such a tone. However, Zhang Wei didn't buy it at all. A trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. He said impatiently, "I can't change it. Tomorrow is also my friend's birthday." With that, he glanced in Ning Xi's direction. Ning Xi took a sip of wine and did not speak. "Ah, what a coincidence. Your friend has the same birthday as me? It must be a very important friend of yours, right? What a pity. If you're done with your friend, you're welcome to come anytime. Our party will last through the night," Ning Xi said with an understanding look. Damn it, if she couldn't invite Zhang Wei, wouldn't she lose face in front of so many sisters? Who was Zhang Wei's friend? Not only did she have the same birthday as her, but she was also so important that Zhang Wei declined her invitation in front of so many people? Wait, it's my birthday tomorrow too. Ning Xi looked in Ning Xi's direction in shock. She suddenly remembered that Ning Xi's birthday was the same day as hers, which was also tomorrow. Could the friend that Zhang Wei mentioned be Ning Xi? At this time, she suddenly thought of something. Later, Wang Taihe announced that the investor was Lu Jingli, and her father told her that Lu Jingli had secretly appointed Ning Xi as the second female lead. Why would Lu Jingli appoint Ning Xi as the second female lead? If her guess was right, and Ning Xi and Zhang Wei were really close, then Zhang Wei must have helped Ning Xi. If that was the case, then everything would make sense. Did Ning Xi hook up with Zhang Wei? After Suyan left, Zhang Wei squinted at Ning Xi and snorted. "Is that the real love you loved so much at that time? There must be something wrong with your eyesight?" Ning Xi glanced at him slowly. "I think there's something wrong with your eyesight. A man like Suyan deserves at least 9 out of 10, okay." Suyan exploded when he heard that. F***ck, why is it 9 points? How can he get so many points? Ning Xi said matter-of-factly, "Because he is the man I loved." Isn't it a slap in my face to say he is not good enough? Putting aside the subjective factors, from an objective point of view, it is undeniable that he deserves 9 points. Suyan's appearance isn't like yours, where you can dazzle and blind people with just a glance, but he wins in terms of temperament. He's the gentle and refined type. In a fairy tale world, he'd be a prince, or in ancient times, an elegant young master. He's like a jade young master, unparalleled in this world. In short, he's the type I liked the most when I was young, the type that I fell for with just a glance. The fire in Zhang Wei's chest burned hotter and hotter. Damn, Ning Xioxi, do you still have feelings for him? You are praising him to the heavens? Ning Xi rolled her eyes at him. I really don't care about him, so I can talk to you in such a calm and objective tone, okay? What's wrong with your IQ? What was more, she was just describing the most vivid and beautiful boy in her memory, not the current Soyan. Sometimes, it was because the memories were too beautiful that the reality was crueler. It took Zhang Wei a long time to calm down. He asked in a low, muffled voice, "Then how many points do you give me?" Ning Xi stroked her chin and answered under Zhang Wei's nervous gaze, 9 p.m. Your face alone is worth so many points? Hearing this, Zhang Wei immediately calmed down. He touched his face and said proudly, "Of course, I make a living with my face, okay, but where is the other 0.1 points? Ning Xi looked at him as if he was an idiot. Do you still need to ask? Obviously, it's my IQ. Zhang Wei, forget it, For the sake of the high score of 9.9, I won't argue with this damned girl. Zhang Weie's eyes flickered and he couldn't help but ask, then, what about Lu Tingxiao? What score do you give me? In your heart, what kind of man is he? Well, Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi found it hard to answer this question. She thought about it for a long time before she answered, I don't dare to rate the Demon King. If I had to describe his type, I would say that he's the type that you can only watch from afar but not play with. The surface of the sea looked calm, but you never knew what kind of terrifying undercurrents were lurking in the depths of the sea. This kind of man is unfathomable. If you get too close, you might end up buried at the bottom of the sea. Hearing this, Zhang Weie's face softened a lot. Humph, at least you still have some sense left. But, Ning Xi muttered to herself. But what? Zhang Weie asked nervously. Ning Xi propped her chin on her hand and smiled, but to die under a peony flower, it's still romantic to be a ghost. F***ck? Ning Xioxi? Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding. Don't be so agitated. Zhang Weie almost died of anger. I think you're telling the truth after drinking too much. I suspected that you had some ulterior motives towards Lu Tingxiao from the very beginning. Do you want to sleep with him? Words 900 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 25 seconds. Is there any woman in the country who doesn't want to sleep with Lu Tingxiao? Ning Xi asked. All the women in the country want to sleep with me. Why don't you think so? Zhang Weie blurted out. Ning Xi raised her voice and questioned, how do you know I haven't thought about it? Zhang Weie was stunned for a moment, and then his ears turned red. The next second, Ning Xi burst into laughter. Zhang Weie realized that he had been fooled and flew into a rage. Ning Xi, just wait and see. I'm not done with you. If it weren't for the fact that there were other people in the room, he would have beaten her to death. Ning Xi saw that she had finally pissed him off and hurriedly waved her hands to escape. Alas, she had drunk too much tonight. She liked to flirt with people when she was drunk, especially Zhang Weie. After finishing her physiological needs, Ning Xi staggered back. The hotel corridor was a little twisted, and she finally found a private room after a long time. However, when she pushed the door open, she was dumbfounded. The room was full of strangers and this room was obviously much bigger and more luxurious than the one where the crew was. It could even be described as magnificent. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Ning Xi apologized and was about to leave. Suddenly, a fat hand covered her wrist, and then a mouth with a strong smell of alcohol almost came close to her face. Oh, where did this lost lamb come from? Since you're here, it's fate. Why don't you stay and have a drink with me? The man who was grabbing her hand was about 40 or 50 years old. His body was fat, and his cheeks were red. His lustful eyes looked at her from head to toe, as if she was naked. Finally, his eyes stopped at her chest area. There was a burst of laughter in the room. Ning Xi subconsciously wanted to throw him over her shoulder, but she inadvertently glanced around and found that many of the people in this room were familiar faces who often appeared in financial magazines. She took a closer look and realized that half of the top 10 richest people in the capital were in this room. This probability was simply as frightening as a young eunuch accidentally entering the throne room where morning court was being held. Anyway, she couldn't afford to offend anyone in this room, so she immediately gave up the idea of violence. It seemed that it would not be easy to escape tonight. She had drunk too much and her head was still dizzy. Come. Beauty, come in. The fat man kept pulling her into the room, and at the same time, did not forget to take advantage of her body. Ning Xi struggled to get rid of the fat man's hand and said politely, sorry, sir, I really entered the wrong box. My friend is still waiting for me. Hearing this, the fat man immediately flew into a rage. Stinking whore, you obviously walked in the wrong direction on purpose. Why are you pretending to be pure? I like you because your ancestors are lucky? Ning Xi secretly cursed. How could the top 10 of the rich list be like this? She recognized that the fat man seemed to be Zhu Xiangcheng, the chairman of Fengrui Real Estate, who was ranked 10th at the bottom. He was particularly lecherous. The fat man said and reached out to pull her again. He was about to drag her to the sofa. Ning Xi was racking her brains to find a way to get away. At this moment, she suddenly felt something on her shoulder. A very familiar cool air from the glacier wrapped her up tightly from behind. She was so cold that she couldn't see through it. Then the strength on her shoulder gently but forcefully pulled her back. The next second, she bumped into a hard and warm embrace. Boss Lu. Zhu Xiangcheng, who had been pestering Ning Xi a moment ago, froze, but soon put on a fawning expression. Boss Lu, you like this girl too? Since that's the case, you first. In the private room, the looks of the onlookers all changed. What was going on? Lu Tingxiao was always as cold as a flower on a high mountain when he came out to socialize, and women were nothing to him. How could he be interested in a drunk woman who had accidentally barged in? Ignoring their reactions, Lu Tingxiao only had eyes for one person. He frowned at the swaying girl in his arms. What's going on? Lu. Ning Xi stopped herself from calling his name and stammered, I came to the wrong place. The private room was a little dim, so she hadn't noticed Lu Tingxiao was here. Among the beer bellies, Lu Tingxiao's presence was like a cool breeze. Which private room are you in? I'll take you there. Lu Tingxiao didn't even look at the people behind him and walked out with Ning Xi in his arms. He had been resting with his eyes closed. He had vaguely heard the laughter in the private room, but he hadn't paid attention until he heard Ning Xi's familiar voice. He opened his eyes and saw Zhu Xiangcheng holding her hand and groping her. At that moment, he had the urge to break that man's hand. But he couldn't scare his girl, so he suppressed his cold anger and pretended to be a stranger to help her out. After leaving the private room, Ning Xi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Tingxiao, thank you. If I hadn't met you, I would have gotten into trouble tonight. If she couldn't talk to him nicely, she would have hit him. So what if you got into trouble? I'll take care of it for you. If you encounter such a situation again, don't let yourself be taken advantage of. Lu Tingxiao lectured her seriously. Ning Xi sighed with a smile. Ah, it feels so good to have someone to back you up. When she left the Lu family, when little Bun no longer needed her, she and Lu Tingxiao would probably become strangers, right? She didn't know why, but she felt a little sad at the thought of this. Lu Tingxiao touched the girl's head. I can support you for the rest of my life, as long as you want. Ning Xi shook off the thoughts in her mind. I'm fine now, I can go back by myself. Are you sure you can do it? Lu Tingxiao asked worriedly. Of course, of course. Hurry up and go in. Ning Xi waved her hand and walked backward. Lu Tingxiao knew in advance that the crew would come here for dinner tonight, so he accepted those people's boring party invitation. Of course, he also knew which private room Ning Xi was in. So after seeing Ning Xi walking in the opposite direction, Lu Tingxiao sighed helplessly and strode forward to catch up. Forget it, I'll send you back. Which is your private room? Oh, it's 801. 801 isn't in this direction. Lu Tingxiao helped her walk in the right direction. Lu Tingxiao didn't stop until he sent her to the door. Go in. Don't run around. If you need to go to the bathroom, make sure to find a friend to accompany you. If you can't find him, Zhang Wei will do. Asking Zhang Wei to accompany her to the toilet? Got it? Thank you, Boss Lu, for sending me back in person. Ning Xi made a heart gesture. Lu Tingxiao smiled and the last trace of hostility between his eyebrows disappeared. Send me a message when you leave, and we'll go back together. Words 1079 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 26 seconds. When Ning Xi came back, Zhang Wei was relieved. Why are you gone for so long? I thought you fell into the toilet? It's worse than falling into the toilet. I fell into a wolf's den. Ning Xi leaned back on the sofa with a lingering fear. What do you mean? Zhang Wei frowned. I went to the wrong room. You don't know. The room was full of big shots from the capital and a wretched fatty who wouldn't let me go and asked me to drink with him. What did you say? Zhang Wei's face changed immediately. He looked her up and down nervously. Then how did you come back? Ning Xi snorted. Because I was lucky enough to meet a big shot among the big shots. Zhang Wei's face darkened. Could it be Lu Tingxiao? Ning Xi snapped her fingers. Bingo? That's right. Boss Lu is so handsome. He saved me in time and escorted me to the door of the room. Zhang Wei. What happened to high IQ but low EQ? Was this man who was so good at picking up girls really the one he knew? After the party, they said goodbye to each other. Ning Xi, how are you going back? Do you need a ride? Ye Linglong asked. Thank you, sister Ye, but it's okay. I have a friend nearby who will take me back. Then I'll go first. Okay, be careful. What about Mu Ye? Where are you going? Guo Kishan asked. I'm waiting for my agent. Okay, see you tomorrow. If the weather is good, we can continue today's shooting. It's raining and hailing today. It's so strange. Guo Kishan murmured gloomily. After the crew left, only Zhang Wei and Ning Xi were left at the door. Ning Xi was sleepy and drunk. She was leaning against the golden pillar behind her with her eyes closed like a dead dog. Zhang Wei squinted at her. Brother Ming will be here soon. Why are you waiting for your friend? Go back with me? Wait, you're not waiting for. Before she finished speaking, a man in a suit and leather shoes came out of the hotel lobby. His steady footsteps were in the moonlight, and he walked step by step to Ning Xi who was napping. His voice was like the summer night wind. Ning Xi. Ning Xi opened her eyes drowsily. Lu Tingxiao. The man in front of her seemed to be synonymous with security. As soon as his figure appeared in her line of sight, she finally let go of her last bit of consciousness. Her body went limp and fell straight to the side. Zhang Wei, who was standing at the side, was shocked. He was about to reach out to help her, but someone was faster than him. The girl fell into his arms. Lu Tingxiao gently combed the girl's messy hair on her temples. Then, he stretched an arm to her knees and gently picked her up. At the same time, a black Maybach silently stopped at the entrance, and the driver quickly got out of the car and opened the door. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was about to get into the car with Ning Xi in his arms as if he didn't exist, Zhang Wei couldn't help it anymore. He quickly turned on the recording function of his mobile phone and shouted from behind, "Uncle." Lu Tingxiao paused, slightly turned sideways, and asked him what was the matter with his eyes. Zhang Wei gritted his teeth. What was the matter? Did he have to ask? Did he have to take it for granted? What on earth do you mean by Ning Xi? Zhang Wei stared at him and asked directly. Lu Tingxiao looked down at the girl sleeping soundly in his arms. I love Ning Xi. Yes? Don't you think your attitude towards Ning Xi is too strange and ambiguous? Under the strong pressure of the man, Zhang Wei forced himself to continue speaking. At the same time, he clenched the phone in his hand, nervously waiting for the man's reply. Lu Tingxiao looked at the young man opposite him coldly. I think I've made it clear enough. Since you still don't understand. The next second, Zhang Wei's pupils suddenly shrank. The man in the dark didn't speak directly. Instead, he lowered his head and gently covered the girl's lips. 3 seconds later, the man left with a cherishing expression, and then stared coldly at the young man who was dumbfounded. Do you understand? Late at night. Platinum Palace number 6. A golden retriever was rolling on the bed like a top. F***ck, 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 F***ck. Lei Ming sat on the sofa opposite him and yawned helplessly. You've F***ed me 258 times. What the hell happened tonight? Zhang Wei glared at him fiercely and even his little canine teeth flashed coldly. Don't mention the number 250 to me? I'm a F***ing idiot? Ning Xi didn't wrong me when she said that the last 0.1 points were deducted from my IQ? F***ck, F***ck. I'm hopelessly stupid? What's the use of recording? Why didn't I secretly make a video call? Why? The corner of Lei Ming's mouth twitched. He didn't understand what Zhang Wei was talking about. But he knew that every time he acted like this, it had something to do with Ning Xi. Wei, do you want to get back together with Ning Xi? Zhang Wei froze like a stone and snorted fiercely. Am I crazy? I want to get back together with that B***starred? Because of that incident, I still have nightmares at night? Lei Ming was speechless as he looked at Zhang Wei's resentful face. He liked Ning Xi, but he was so stubborn. In fact, he had always suspected that Zhang Wei had fallen in love with Ning Xi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so angry when he found out the truth. As for his current feelings for Ning Xi, was it love born from hatred? But it might also be because what you can't have is always the best. While Zhang Wei was rolling on the bed, the phone on the bedside rang. Zhang Wei was in no mood to answer it. Finally, Lei Ming picked up his cell phone and looked at it. It's your father. My father. Zhang Wei sat up immediately. His father was like an enemy to him because he entered the entertainment circle. Why would his father call him now? Zhang Wei felt a little uneasy and picked up the phone immediately. Because they hadn't talked for a long time and he had a grudge against his father, Zhang Wei didn't call him father. He said coldly, Chairman Zhang, why are you calling me so late at night? A helpless sigh came from the other end of the phone. The man said in a tired voice, Wei, come back. The company is going to collapse. Zhang Wei's expression changed immediately. What do you mean the company is about to collapse? What happened? There's a mole in the company, and there's a problem with our cooperation with HN. Right now, I can't trust anyone. The only person I can rely on is you. Don't tell me you really have the heart to see the foundation that Dad has built for most of his life be destroyed in a day? Zhang Tingguang's tone was almost begging. Zhang Wei tightened his grip on the phone. I will never quit the entertainment circle. I also said that I won't go back to take over your company. Mu Ye, I'm not asking you to leave the entertainment industry. It's up to you whether you want to take over the company or not. I just hope that you can spare some time to come back and help me. Zhang Wei was a man who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. It was the first time that his father, who was as dictatorial as Tyrannosaurus Rex, spoke to him in such a humble tone. Therefore, he did not refuse immediately but said ambiguously, but I'm very busy these days. Let me think about it. After Zhang Wei hung up the phone, Lei Ming immediately asked with concern, did something happen to your father's company? Family matters are more important. As for work, I can help you coordinate. Zhang Wei had a headache. But what about my scenes? Do I have to postpone them? Lei Ming pondered for a moment and then analyzed, you don't have to postpone them. Under the Heavens is a period drama, and there are many big scenes, so the filming period is relatively long. I can tell the director to move all your scenes to the end, and we can take responsibility for any losses that may occur during this period. Guo Qixin should agree. Zhang Wei scratched his head impatiently. It seems that we can only do this. Damn it, why is everything going wrong these days? HN's cooperation deal was already set in stone, yet something went wrong. It was just a kiss scene, and it was even hail in the middle of summer. The more Zhang Wei said, the more he felt that something was wrong. Finally, he patted the mattress. Damn it, Lu Tingxiao, you are so shameless. In the Lu mansion, seeing Papa bring back the drunk Aunt Xioxi, Xiao Bao blamed and complained. Lu Tingxiao put Ning Xi on the bed. Seeing his son's eyes, he raised his eyebrows and explained, I didn't ask her to drink. Xiao Bao still had a look of blame and accusation on his face. Lu Tingxiao said helplessly, well, it's my fault. I didn't take good care of her. Seeing Papa's sincere attitude, Xiao Bao finally withdrew his dissatisfied gaze and then ran to the bathroom. After a while, he took out a hot towel, took off his shoes, and climbed onto the bed. He carefully knelt beside Ning Xi and wiped her face. After wiping her face and hands, he was very careful and serious. Seeing his son acting like a filial son, Lu Tingxiao was both relieved and sighed. As his father, he had never been treated like this. Oh, I have a headache. Hearing Ning Xi groaning, Xiao Bao felt distressed and hurriedly leaned over to Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao's eyes flickered. He looked at his son and said, it's your Aunt Xioxi's job. Even I can't interfere. But you can try to persuade her to drink less in the future. She'll listen to you. His words were pleasing to Xiao Bao's ears. He nodded seriously, indicating that he would take this important task. The next morning, as soon as Ning Xi woke up, she saw Xiao Bao lying on the edge of her bed with a serious face. He looked very unhappy. Ning Xi hurriedly sat up. Well, baby, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's with that expression? Just like your father. As she spoke, she pinched his little face in amusement. Little Bun quickly took out a writing board from behind him and started flipping through the pages. Ning Xi saw that teacher Little Steamed Bun had drawn quite a few lively comic strips with pictures and text. From the heart, blood, bones, stomach, pancreas, liver, and other aspects, she described the dangers of drinking alcohol to the body. After flipping through it, Little Bun continued to look at her with a serious expression. His meaning was clear. Ning Xi coughed lightly. Ahem, that, baby, actually alcohol is not as terrible as you think. It can lower harmful cholesterol, improve self-confidence, stimulate brain intelligence, and control weight. Ning Xi randomly counted with her fingers. Although she knew that Little Bun was concerned about her, she couldn't just casually promise a child something. How could she not drink in her line of work? When Little Bun heard this, his pitch-black eyes were filled with anger and disappointment. He immediately turned his head and quickly ran out. Hey, don't go. Ning Xi scratched her head awkwardly. Words 939 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 26 seconds. After a while, Ning Xi washed up and went downstairs. She greeted Little Bun as usual. Hi, good morning, baby. However, Little Bun didn't pay any attention to her. Instead, he proudly turned his face to the other side. Ning Xi, At the dining table, Lu Tingxiao, who was reading the newspaper, raised his eyebrows in surprise and cast a puzzled look at Ning Xi. Did you quarrel? That was rare. Ning Xi touched her nose. Xiaobao just persuaded me to quit drinking. I told him that drinking actually has a lot of benefits, and then he got angry. So that was it. Lu Tingxiao nodded. Ning Xi rolled her eyes and immediately sought for an ally. Lu Tingxiao, tell Xiaobao, isn't drinking good for him? She thought that Lu Tingxiao would definitely be on her side if he drank too much. Lu Tingxiao looked at Ning Xi on the right who looked expectant, and then at his son on the left who looked angry. He coughed with his fist against his lips. Drinking is indeed good. Ning Xi immediately patted her thigh excitedly. Bun, see, I was right. Little Bun immediately cast a contemptuous look at his father. It was him who proposed it last night, but now he changed his mind because of Aunt Xioxi's request. He was so unprincipled. Seeing his son's expression as if looking at a traitor, Lu Tingxiao chuckled and continued to say, but the disadvantages of drinking far outweigh the advantages, and the advantage is on the basis of moderation. So, unless it's very difficult to avoid, you'd better drink less. Then he added, I've started to quit drinking recently. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Xi immediately laid on the table listlessly with a defeated expression. Mr. Boss, where's the alliance we agreed on? After a while, she finally accepted the fact that Little Bun and Little Bun were allies. She raised her hands in surrender and said, okay, I got it. I'll drink as little as possible in the future. I won't compete with others in drinking, and I won't drink uncontrollably. Can you forgive me now, baby? Xiao Bao carefully looked at her expression. After confirming her sincerity, he finally nodded. Moreover, he stretched out his chubby little hand, which had grown a lot of flesh these days, and imitated the way she usually encouraged and praised him. He gently stroked her head, as if to say that this was a good child. Ning Xi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In addition, her heart was filled with the warmth of being cared for and cared for. She picked up the little bun and gave it a kiss. Baby, you're so cute even when you're angry. I'll love you a little more every day. What should I do? Little Treasure's eyes were sparkling. He was very happy. Lu Tingxiao, who was tortured every day, was speechless. His son only needed to act cute to get what he wanted, but he had to go through 81 difficulties. Fengrui real estate chairman's office. The muscles on Zhu Xiangqing's face twitched. He leaned on the table and stood up. That's impossible. We have always done this in the past, and we have never seen Lu Enterprises make a fuss about it. Why did it have to be this time? The manager was also anxious. Maybe it's because Lu Enterprises' internal policy has changed recently, and they are stricter about quality control. This kind of thing depends on what Lu Enterprises says. If they turn a blind eye, we'll go. If they take it seriously, it's because of our quality problem. We've breached the contract. Zhu Xiangcheng walked back and forth. What should we do now? It's said that this time Lu Tingxiao personally gave the order to reject it. I'm afraid we can only start from him. The manager pondered. Zhu Xiangcheng became even more irritable. Lu Tingxiao is a man who can't be persuaded by force or persuasion. Neither money nor women will work on him. Starting from him is tantamount to a dead end? No, wait, women, maybe someone can. When she arrived at the set, Ning Xi was told that the shooting plan had been changed because of Zhang Weiy's family. That fellow would usually nag at her side for a long time even if it was just a small matter. This time, why didn't he tell her at all when such a big thing happened? Ning Xi immediately made a phone call to ask. Zhang Weiy's tone sounded very bad. Why should I tell you? Don't you think I'm a busybody? Don't you want me to get away from you as far as possible? That's what you want. Ning Xi was also angry. Zhang Wei, what's wrong with you? Zhang Wei was very angry at himself for being so stupid. Finally, he forced himself to calm down and said, I'm in my dad's company and I'm as busy as a dog today. I can't get away. Log into the game tonight and I'll give you a gift. Happy birthday, and I've sent a few things to your mailbox. You can have a look yourself. Believe it or not. That's it. I'm hanging up. This guy. Ning Xi helplessly looked at her cell phone. At this time, Guo Qishan ran over to inform her. Ning Xi, you know what happened to Mui, right? We were supposed to continue shooting the kissing scene yesterday, but now it's changed to the scene between you and Swallow. I'll send you the new schedule later." Ning Xi nodded. "Got it, director." Then she found a remote corner and nestled in the shade of a tree to read the script. While she was absorbed in the script, she heard footsteps. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a figure that she hated. It was Suyan. Suyan had sent Ning Swallow here today. Because it was her birthday, Suyan had taken a day off and accompanied her on the set all day. The girls on the set were going crazy with jealousy. Ning Xi didn't want to talk to him. She just raised her eyelids slightly, indicating that he had something to say. Suyan handed her a bottle of iced drink and asked cautiously, "Zioxy, will you come to Swallow's birthday?" Ning Xi didn't take it. She looked at him as if he were an idiot. "Are you sure you want to ask me such a stupid question? Zioxy, today is also your birthday. If you can come back, we can celebrate it together. I've already talked to uncle and auntie, and they've already agreed." Ning Xi rolled her eyes. "Thank you so much for helping me celebrate my birthday." Suyan frowned and gave a long sigh. "Ning Xi, I really don't know you anymore. When will you become the kind and considerate Zixi you used to be? Everything that happened at that time was my fault. If it weren't for me, Xueluo wouldn't have done that. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Xueluo is innocent. She's been living with guilt all these years, and she wants nothing more than to get your blessing. I really hope you can come." Guilt. Every time she talked to Suyan, Ning Xi felt like she was listening to a joke. The man who took my identity, stole my parents, and slept with me because of guilt? She would feel really guilty if that were to happen. Also, don't mention the word kindness to me. That wasn't kindness back then, it was idiocy. Suyan's face darkened, but then he said firmly, "Zioxy, as long as you're willing to forgive Xueluo, I'll do anything you want me to do except to testify in court." "Are you sure?" Ning Xi raised her eyebrows. "I'm sure." Suyan nodded. Ning Xi put down the script in her hand and looked at him calmly. "Okay, I want you to dump Ning Xueluo at the birthday party tonight. Compared to the humiliation I suffered in the past, I'm kind and considerate enough to let her dump me." Suyan's face turned pale. "Zioxy, this. Ning Xi? How can you?" Ning Xueluo's sobbing voice suddenly came from behind. Ning Xi crossed her arms and said leisurely, "What about me?" Ning Xueluo looked at her with anger and pity. "You still can't let go of Brother Yan, so you hate me so much. You hate me for taking him away? But how can you be so selfish and break us up in such a despicable way? Brother Yan doesn't love you at all. What's the point of doing this?" Seeing Ning Xueluo was so emotional that she was almost out of breath, Suyan hurriedly patted her on the back to comfort her. "Xueluo, calm down. I think Zioxy just said it casually." Ning Xi looked at the two of them with a smile as if they were playing a life and death drama. "I didn't say it casually, unless you said you can do anything you want just now. Brother Yan, look at her. We sincerely begged her for forgiveness, but what did she do? She made things difficult for us again and again. Are you really going to agree to her shameless request?" Ning Xueluo looked up at Suyan in panic and helplessness. "Silly girl, how could I?" Suyan gently touched her head and then looked at Ning Xi sternly. "I'm sorry, Zioxy, I can't agree to this request." Ning Xi finally lost her interest and sneered. The next second, her eyes were as sharp as a knife. "Then get out of my sight." "Ning Xi, what's wrong with you?" "It's my fault. It has nothing to do with Brother Yan. Why do you treat him like this?" Ning Xueluo defended Suyan. Ning Xi clapped her hands. "The relationship between the two of you is so touching and tearful. Then, Ning Xueluo, you must be willing to do anything to atone for your sins. You are willing to do anything for Suyan, right?" Ning Xueluo frowned when she heard that. Who knew what kind of trap this woman was waiting for her? However, she could only answer this question, "Of course. What do you want?" Ning Xi deliberately pondered for a long time, and then said under Ning Xueluo's vigilant gaze, "In this case, Suyan doesn't want to dump you. As long as you give up the identity of the eldest daughter of the Ning family in the capital and return to the Tang family village in Spring Breeze Town to be your Tang Xueluo, then the bad debt between the three of us will be written off." Ning Xueluo's eyes widened as if she had heard something extremely terrifying. She shook her head uncontrollably and said, "No, no." Ning Xueluo suddenly opened her eyes wide as if she had heard something terrible. "How can you force me to leave my father and mother? Force me to leave the place where I've lived for more than 20 years? Ning Xi waved her hand impatiently and interrupted her. All right. Your acting skills are so bad. You'd better not act anymore. It hurts my eyes. I've already told you to get as far away from me as you can. It was you who came to me again and again, begging for my forgiveness and asking me to make requests. You even swore that you could ask for anything. When I asked, you too looked at me and said, 'Oh, you are so ruthless, shameless, and unreasonable.' Oh, what do you mean by making up for it? It's just an insignificant charity without harming your own interests. You don't think it's hypocritical, but I think it's disgusting. So I can only give you one word. Get away." You've already exceeded. When Suyan and Ning Xueluo returned to the dressing room, both of them were disheveled. Ning Xueluo stood in front of the man helplessly and a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. "Brother Yan, do you blame me? Blame me for not agreeing to Ning Xi's request?" Suyan reached out to wipe away her tears. "Why would I blame you?" Ning Xueluo threw herself into his arms as if she had been redeemed. "Brother Yan, thank you. Thank you for believing in me and understanding me. It's not that I can't let go of the wealth of the Ning family. I just can't let go of my parents. When I think of leaving them and thinking that I can never see them again, come on, don't cry. I know. Suyan patted her back and sighed. I was too naive. I thought she was still the old Xioxi. Shuel Luo, I promise you, from today onwards, I won't let her hurt you because of her. I won't let her hurt you again. Brother Yan. Ning Xi Luo looked at the man in front of her with infatuation. She put her smooth arms around his neck and kissed him. This is the set. What if someone sees us? So what if I see it? You're my boyfriend. Ning Xi Luo said coquettishly. She sat on his lap and stroked his chest, unbuttoning his shirt one by one. Oh, Ning Xi, I want to sleep with your man. So what? After a while, there was a suggestive gasp in the dressing room. Brother Yan, you are great. Use more strength. Use more strength. Brother Yan, who do you think is better, me or Ning Xi? Who is better? Of course it's you. In terms of appearance, Ning Xi was better, but she was too shy and introverted. She didn't know how to do things between men and women, let alone take the initiative to make him happy. At first, he liked her because she was different from other girls. But as time went by, she seemed too bland. However, the current Ning Xi was like a completely different person, as if, like a demon. Her personality had become so bad and unreasonable, but he couldn't take his eyes off her. The man's breathing became more and more rapid, and the last thing that appeared in the sea was that indifferent face with a faint smile. Sister Shuel Luo, the shoot is about to start. Can I call the makeup artist in to do your makeup? The little assistant blushed and stood awkwardly outside the door. She had been by Ning Xi Luo's side for so long that she was already used to this kind of thing. What pure and innocent girl. She was clearly a whore. They should really hear how wild the goddess in their hearts was in bed. Ning Xi was already ready. After waiting for another half an hour, Ning Xue finally came over slowly. I'm sorry to keep everyone waiting. My skin isn't in a good state today, so it took me some time to put on makeup. Ning Xi Luo explained apologetically. Her voice was hoarse and lazy. She looked at Ning Xi with a faint complacency and provocation. When she passed by her, she deliberately pulled her collar, revealing the red kiss mark on her neck. Her face was flushed, her eyes were watery, and there was a sweet smell on her body. It was as if she was afraid that others could not see what she had just done. The veins on Ning Xi's forehead twitched. If it wasn't for the filming, she would be so disgusted that she didn't even want to breathe the same air as her for a minute. Guo Qixin clapped his hands. Okay, since everyone is here, let's start. Everyone in position, action. At dusk, in a sea of bamboos, two women stood facing each other, one in a gorgeous red dress and the other in a flawless white dress. Shang Guan Yingrong said sternly, Meng Chang'e, I understand that you avenged your brother, but isn't it enough that you killed concubine Xian? Are you going to destroy the world? Meng Chang'e's long red sleeves fluttered in the wind like flames. He looked down at the people in front of him disdainfully and said, the world was conquered by the Meng family. So what if I destroy it now? Shang Guan Yingrong was furious and said, You are unreasonable. You used to be a general and protected a country. Why are you so narrow-minded? Are you willing to see the flames of war and the people be plunged into misery and suffering 100 years later? Meng Chang'e's black hair danced in the wind. He looked down and touched his exquisite long nails and said in a crazy tone, after I die, who cares about the flood? It's perfect. Guo Qixin was so excited that he didn't know what else to say except perfect. Ye Linglong came to the scene of the show. After watching it, she let out a long sigh of relief and said with a relieved expression, actually, in this show, the character I put the most effort into is not Shang Guan Yingrong but Meng Chang'e. And I didn't set Meng Chang'e as a villain at the beginning. It's up to the audience to understand whether she is a good villain or not. And how the audience understands it depends on how the actors act. If she doesn't act well, she will be a villain that everyone hates. If she acts well, the character will be very deep. Obviously, Ning Xi was the latter. Guo Qixin was excited and said confidently, I have a feeling that Ning Xi will win an award. Wang Taihe also nodded. She is a good seedling. Xing Hui lost Jia Qingxing and got Ning Xi. What a great deal. Cut. Very good. Take a break and let's go on. The show was over again. Guo Qixin's depressed mood because of Zhang Hui's accident was instantly lifted. After returning to the rest area, Ning Xi Luo asked her assistant as soon as she sat down, what were the directors talking about? The assistant wanted to say something but stopped on second thought, as if she didn't know what to say. Did you praise Ning Xi? Ning Xi Luo sneered. The assistant nodded. Director Guo said that Ning Xi acted perfectly. Scriptwriter Ye said that Ning Xi's acting skills were so good that she portrayed Meng Chang'e as a decent man. Producer Wang also praised Ning Xi, saying that she would have a better future than Jia Qingxing. Director Guo also said. What else? They also said that Ning Xi's role could win an award. The little assistant said weakly. Ning Xi Luo slammed the armrest of the bench. How arrogant? Nowadays, winning an award depends on one's background. Don't you need to do something to win it? Even if she won an award, so what? It's just a best supporting female role. Isn't it just for me? The little assistant echoed. Sister Shuel Luo is right. She's just a vixen. How can she compare to you? The audience is not blind. Ning Xi Luo's expression softened a little, but the gloominess between her eyebrows did not dissipate. She lowered her voice and said, we can do what we've arranged before now. The little assistant exclaimed and then hurriedly covered her mouth. Are we really going to do it? However, this was too dangerous. What if you cut the crap? I told you to do it, so do it. Ning Xi looked impatient. Got it. I'll go and tell that person right now. At this time, Su Yan's concerned voice came from behind. Swoluo, what's wrong? You don't look so good. When Ning Xi saw him, she immediately put on a shy expression. It's all your fault. You made me so tired. You were the one who wanted to provoke me. Su Yan looked helpless. Then he lifted the plastic bag in his hand. I bought some chicken porridge for you so that you won't complain about being tired all the time. You're so annoying. The second scene followed right after the first one. It was a fight scene in the bamboo forest. Shang Guanyingrong saw that Meng Chang'e had turned into a demon and wouldn't listen to anything. After a brief hesitation, she decided to kill her on the spot to prevent future trouble. After more than 2 hours of guidance from the martial arts director, the two finally learned enough. The director was going to find them a martial arts double, but Ning Xi was good at martial arts and had even been a stunt double for others before. She definitely didn't need it, and Ning Xi also said that she wanted to do it herself. Guo Qixin naturally wanted a better movie effect, so he agreed. A professional master helped the two of them set up the suppressive force. After checking several times to make sure that nothing went wrong, the shooting began. Meng Chang'e is dead. Shang Guanyingrong closed her eyes and said the words with heartache and pity. Standing in front of her was only a beautiful and dangerous shell, a weapon that would destroy the world. The next second, a murderous look flashed in Shang Guanyingrong's eyes. At the same time, she suddenly pulled out the long sword from her waist and attacked Meng Chang'e. Meng Chang'e seemed to have expected her to do this. He stood there calmly until the sword was close to the tip of his nose. Only then did he suddenly stretch out his arms, the tips of his feet scraping the ground as he glided backwards like a bird, dodging Shang Guanyingrong's attack. Shang Guanyingrong sneered and attacked again. Meng Chang'e dodged unhurriedly like a cat playing with a mouse. Finally, he pulled out the soft sword from the waist of the red chiffon dress and fought back fiercely. After a dozen moves, Shang Guanyingrong gradually fell into a disadvantage and was almost knocked down from the branch by Meng Chang'e several times. Even though Shang Guanyingrong was very good at martial arts, she was like a child in front of Meng Chang'e who had killed thousands of soldiers. Shang Guanyingrong thought too highly of herself and thought that Meng Chang'e's skills would definitely deteriorate after staying in the palace for a long time. Who knew that when they fought, she was completely no match for him. Unfortunately, it was too late for her to realize that she had underestimated him. In the end, Meng Chang'e finally had enough. With a cold look in his eyes, he thrust his sword towards Shang Guanyingrong's chest. Puchi. It was the sound of a sharp weapon entering flesh. Shang Guanyingrong clutched her chest with a pained expression and fell from the bamboo sea like a kite with a broken string. Next, there would be a close-up of Meng Chang'e's expression. Guo Qixin was watching Ning Xi's performance attentively, but he found that Ning Xi's expression was not right. Ning Xi is injured? Save them? Hurry! Ning Xi, who was still in the air by the steel wire, suddenly shouted. After being stunned for a moment, the staff finally realized that it was not a script. Ning Xi was really injured? Chaos ensued. Everyone surrounded Ning Xi. After being put down, Ning Xi quickly pressed down on Ning Xi's bleeding wound. Call an ambulance. As soon as she finished speaking, her body was suddenly knocked away by someone. Su Yan ran over in shock and hugged Ning Xi tightly in his arms. Swoluo, are you okay? Brother Yan. I'm in pain. Don't be afraid, I'm here. You'll be fine? You'll definitely be fine. You've already Ning Xi was speechless. Damn it, I was massaging her just fine, but you suddenly pushed me away and then looked at her with a pained expression as she bled out. Are you crazy? Are you addicted to acting in melodramatic dramas? If it weren't for the inappropriate occasion, Ning Xi would have cursed him with her hands on her hips. What's going on? Guo Qixin rushed over angrily. Ning Xi pinched her eyebrows. I didn't feel right until I stabbed her in. The sword didn't retract. It was a spring sword that would retract when it encountered resistance, but she hadn't expected such an accident to happen. Guo Qixin was furious. Where's the prop master? Come here. I told you to check the props carefully and that there can't be any accidents. How did you do it? The prop master stumbled over, sweating profusely. Director Guo, it was fine when I checked it. There can't be any problems. Guo Qixin threw the script at his face and roared, then tell me what's going on now. Problems kept happening to the crew, and his patience was really reaching its limit. At this moment, Wang Taehe suddenly asked, then who was the last person to touch this sword? Should be Ning Xi. I gave the sword to her after checking it and she has been practicing with it. It's my fault. I didn't check it again after we started filming. The prop master apologized repeatedly. Hearing this, Ning Xi's pupils contracted. If she still didn't understand what had happened, she wouldn't be able to continue working. At this moment, everyone had different expressions on their faces. Guo Qixin glared at the prop master and then at Ning Xi. Suppressing his anger, he said, we'll talk about this later. Hurry up and send her to the hospital. Unseal off the scene. Don't let the news get out. The First People's Hospital of B City. Su Yan was treating Ning Xi wound while Ning Xi was standing in the corridor outside the ward, leaning against the cold wall. Her brain was working fast. Ning Xi was indeed the founder of the Little White Flower. Even the trick of injuring herself to gain the confidence of others was very powerful. Wasn't she afraid that she would stab her to death? It was a pity that she had stopped the moment she realized something was wrong. Ning Luo's wound wasn't deep and it was just a superficial wound. But the follow-up problems caused by this incident were too troublesome. Her top priority was to find a way to clear herself of suspicion. Ning Xi was in deep thought when she suddenly heard a rush of footsteps. Just as she raised her head, she heard a slap and felt a burning pain on her face. Bastard! How could you do such a thing to Xue Luo? If you have any grievances, come at me. I was the one who wanted to keep her in the Ning family. I was the one who was willing to spoil her. What did Xue Luo do wrong? The person who came screamed at her hysterically, his eyes as though he was looking at an enemy with a blood feud. Ning Xi wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her mouth, slowly raised her head, motionlessly looking at the luxurious, noble, and elegant lady in front of her, her mother. Behind Zhuang Lingyu is her father Ning Yehua. His eyes are also filled with disgust. If anything happens to Xue Luo, I won't forgive you. The two people in front of her, one is her biological mother and the other is her biological father. From the beginning to the end, they didn't ask a single word and just scolded and threatened her. Ning Xi has thousands of vicious words that can make them foam at the mouth. But at this moment, she seems to be drained of all her energy. She doesn't want to say a single word and just stared at the two of them coldly. Evil creature? What's with that look? Ning Yehua was furious. He was about to lose his temper when the door was pushed open from the inside. Ning Yehua and Zhuang Lingyu immediately forgot about Ning Xi and rushed over. Suyan, how is Xue Luo? She's fine for the time being. You can go in and see her, Suyan answered tiredly and looked at Ning Xi whose face was red and swollen. Zhuang Lingyu immediately threw herself in front of Ning Xue's bed and looked her up and down. Mom sweetheart, how are you? Does it still hurt? How do you feel? Ning Xue smiled weakly. Mom, I'm fine now. The doctor said it's just a superficial wound. Zhuang Lingyu touched her hair lovingly. You're a girl. How can you say you're fine with such a big scar? If the sword had been deeper, you would have lost your life. That wretched girl, how could she be so cruel? You should at least call her sister. Sister. Ning Xue looked sad and then she forced herself to say, Dad, Mom, don't blame her. It's not her fault. It's the prop that went wrong. Ning Yehua snorted. Silly child, why are you so silly? How could there be a problem with the prop? He then shouted at Ning Xi, who was at the door, Beast, what are you waiting for? Get your ass in here and apologize to Xue Luo? Ning Xi's indifferent expression was like a thick and indestructible mask. I have nothing to apologize to her for. If you want me to apologize, show me the evidence. If you have the evidence, I can even give my life to her. Ning Yehua pointed at her with a trembling finger. You're still so stubborn. I'm giving you face by not investigating it. You won't repent until you see the coffin, right? Do you really want to embarrass me? Ha! In Ning Yehua's eyes, his face was always the most important thing. Ning Xi sneered. If I really wanted to take revenge on her, you should be looking at her dead body now. Would I still have the chance to pretend to be a father and daughter? Ning Yehua slammed the table. Don't talk nonsense with me. Ning Xi, are you going to apologize or not? If you admit your mistake, apologize, and then leave the entertainment industry, I can pretend that this never happened, but if you insist on going your own way, thank you, but I choose to be stubborn. Ning Xi snorted, waved her hand, and left without looking back. Zhuang Lingyu's face was full of disbelief. Look at what she looks like. I can't believe I gave birth to such a bastard. Ning Yehua was so angry that he spun in circles. Evil creature? Evil creature? How infuriating? Ning Luo said anxiously, Dad, forget it. I'm fine now. Don't be mad at my sister. Don't let it affect your health. I already let her go last time, but she actually did such a thing. This time, she hurt you. Maybe next time, she will really kill you. I can't let this matter go. But, Dad. Alright, you don't have to worry about this. I will handle it. That's right. Let your dad handle it. Take care of yourself. Your dad will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. Ning Luo's eyes were red. She suppressed her grievance and looked very touched. Thank you, Mom, Dad. You really don't have to do this. I'm fine. Suyan, who had been silent since just now, patted her on the shoulder. Luo, you're too kind. Ning Xi has gone too far this time. Uncle is right. You can't let her do as she pleases. You've already exceeded yo. When Ning Xi walked out of the hospital, it was already late at night. There were no stars or moon in the sky, and there were only sporadic cars and pedestrians on the street. She admitted that Ning Luo's methods were very clumsy and unskilled, but she still succeeded. She always used the things that she cared about the most to hit her. For example, Suyan, her parents. Sometimes, she even deeply doubted herself. Was it all her own fault? Was it because she was too terrible, too unbearable? That was why they all hated her, despised her, and abandoned her. She even wondered if there was any point in her struggling until now. Even if one day she achieved her goal and got everything, no one in the world would care. She was still alone. Ning Xi was in a daze, walking aimlessly on the side of the road. She didn't notice that a black car without a license plate was following her stealthily. When she walked to a place with no one nearby, two people quickly got out of the car. One covered her mouth and nose with a wet towel from behind, and the other tied her up with a rope and dragged her into the car. The whole process took less than 5 seconds. When Ning Xi realized it, she had lost her strength under the effect of the drug. Her body was also tightly tied up, and there was no room for resistance. Ning Xi's pale lips showed a bitter smile. She had been framed and kidnapped. This birthday of hers was really fulfilling. The car drove steadily for a long time. Ning Xi's eyes were covered with a black cloth. She didn't know where the car was going, and she didn't know who the other party was. Ning Xuluo's people? It didn't seem like it. Ning Xuluo had won today, so there was no need for her to do anything unnecessary. Then who could it be? Who did she offend recently? Just when Ning Xi was puzzled, she heard the voice of one of the men in front of her. Hello, Mr. Zhu. Yes, we have taken care of her. We are on the way. Yes, don't worry, we will deliver it to you on time. This girl is so real. Both of us are attracted to her? Ha ha ha, how would we dare? We will definitely deliver it to you in one piece. Ning Xi was horrified. Mr. Zhu? She suddenly remembered that she went to the wrong room at the Pearl Hotel last night. Could this Mr. Zhu be Zhu Xiangcheng? Could it be that he didn't succeed that day and was unwilling to give up, so he sent someone to kidnap her? The more Ning Xi thought about it, the more likely it was. She cursed silently. When she was about to find a way to escape, the effect of the helpless hypnosis became stronger and stronger. Her consciousness became more and more blurred, and soon she completely fell into darkness. When Ning Xi regained some consciousness, she found that she was still blindfolded. She could hear two women talking in the room. She was in a daze and could not hear what they were talking about. She could only feel them taking off all her clothes quickly and changing her into a thin nightgown. Then, they sprinkled something that looked like flower petals on her body. The more Ning Xi thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. With Zhu Xiangqing's lustful personality, if he really wanted a woman, how could he be so patient? He would have tied her up and done it right away. Now, he was helping her change her clothes and scattering flower petals. She could even smell the perfume they sprayed on her. Damn fat pig, old pervert. If you want to kill me, just do it. What are you doing? Zhu Xiangcheng heard that Lu Tingxiao would be attending a business cocktail party tonight. He had rushed over early and made several preparations. The result was just as he had expected. Lu Tingxiao was unmoved by force or persuasion. He had painstakingly gotten his hands on a priceless antique painting, but Lu Tingxiao did not even look at it. Instead, he gave it to Zhu Xiangcheng with a cute little girl. Lu Tingxiao looked at him as if he was looking at a daylily. Just as Zhu Xiangcheng was feeling anxious, the phone he had been waiting for finally rang. Hey, why are you calling so late? Are you guys done? Yes, we're already on our way. Hurry up. You have to send her over in 10 minutes. Room 808, don't get it wrong. Don't worry, we'll definitely send her over on time. Tisk, Director Zhu, the girl you found is a real one. Both of us are moved by her. If you two dare touch her, don't even think about getting the rest of the money. I have great use for this woman. She can't be missing a single hair. Not far away, Lu Tingxiao, who was sitting on a high stool, looked down at the time on his watch. He straightened his cuffs and stood up, looking like he was about to leave. At this moment, a man abruptly emerged from the swimming pool. With a flick of his hair, a cool splash was created. He had healthy and attractive wheat-colored skin, 6 beautiful abdominal muscles above his belly button, and mermaid lines below that would make countless men envious and want to have them. The man raised his arrogant and handsome face, his wet hand grabbing Lu Tingxiao's calf as he was about to leave. He said in a displeased tone, Hey, Lu Tingxiao, I'm the one who started the party tonight. Can't you give me some face? You're leaving after only half an hour? Moreover, you didn't even drink a sip of wine when you came to the banquet? There are so many good wines and beauties here, but none of them can make you stay longer? Let go. Lu Tingxiao frowned. He looked like he was going to crush Zhu Xiangqing's bones in the next second. At this moment, Lu Jingli walked over from behind with a glass of wine in his hand. He said with a smile, Brother Tian, can't you see that my brother's mind isn't here tonight? He's already giving you face by staying here for half an hour? Mo Lingtian lay on the edge of the pool with a sloppy smile on his face. If his mind isn't with me, then whose mind is with him? He doesn't have a woman? Lu Jingli looked as if his eyes were going to pop out of their sockets as he snorted. Who said there isn't? There will be one soon. What? This is too much. As expected, Mo Lingtian was shocked. He jumped out of the swimming pool with a splash. His face was full of anger for being betrayed. You said that brothers will walk together for life. Whoever gets a girlfriend first is a dog. Lu Tingxiao glanced at him with a straight face. I don't remember promising you something so boring. Lu Jingli couldn't help but complain, Brother Tian, you're all alone, so you can do whatever you want. My brother has a son, so he has the responsibility of finding a mother for the child. Who is that woman? Mo Lingtian frowned and asked. Lu Tingxiao glanced at his watch again. His expression was already extremely impatient. He directly strode forward, completely ignoring him. F***ck? How dare you ignore me? As expected, once you have a woman, you lose your humanity. Mo Lingtian cursed from behind. After Lu Tingxiao left, Lu Jingli followed. Compared to the boring cocktail party, he was more interested in seeing how his brother flirted with girls. Brother, you're in such a hurry to go back. Are you going to celebrate sister-in-law's birthday? Quick, tell me, what surprise did you prepare? I'll give you some information. Lu Jingli was chattering away behind Lu Tingxiao when a fat ball suddenly rushed out from the side. Boss Lu? Second young master? The person was sweating profusely. It seemed like he had caught up in a hurry. Lu Jingli raised his eyebrows slightly. Yo, Director Zhu, what's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? I am looking for Boss Lu. Zhu Xiangcheng looked at Lu Tingxiao with a flattering expression. He handed over a thin gilded room card with both hands. Boss Lu, this is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. His meaning was obvious. He had prepared a woman in the room for Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao couldn't be bothered to deal with anyone at the moment. In order to avoid wasting time, he took the room card and continued to stride forward. Zhu Xiangcheng was relieved to see him accept it, but he was worried about whether he would go or not. Lu Jingli followed behind him with a dubious expression. Wow, brother, you're so lucky. Zhu Xiangcheng is really desperate this time. He will definitely make a big move, so the woman he found for you must not be ordinary. Brother, do you want it? Well, you already have a sister-in-law. You won't even look at her? Then give me your room card, just give it to me. I'm very curious what kind of celestial immortal Zhu Xiangcheng has found. Lu Tingxiao's fingertips moved slightly, and the room card flew straight to Lu Jingli in the next second. Lu Jingli caught it accurately with 2 fingers, and his face was full of joy. Then I'm going. Yo, 808, and it's a presidential suite. Lu Jingli took the room card, hummed a song, and walked happily to the guest room area at the back. The elevator went straight to the top floor. Lu Jingli put one hand in his pocket and walked straight to the room at the end of the corridor. When he reached the door, he took out the room card and opened the door with a ding. Before opening the door, Lu Jingli thought that he was just curious to see what would happen. What if the woman inside fell in love with him and refused to let him go? Although he didn't want to marry, he was a serious person and only accepted serious relationships. Creak, the door was finally pushed open. After opening the door, he saw a kg-sized bed sprinkled with red rose petals. A woman was lying in the middle of the bed. Between the petals, he could vaguely see that she was wearing an extremely thin nightgown and a pair of white and straight legs. Just this pair of beautiful legs was enough to make a man's imagination run wild. Zhu Xiangcheng really put in a lot of effort this time. Lu Jingli continued to take 2 steps in as he thought about it. Then, he saw the woman's face. Although his eyes were covered with a piece of white lace cloth, he still recognized who the woman on the bed was at a glance. Ow! Lu Jingli jumped up in fright as if he had seen a ferocious beast, and his body hit the door with a loud sound. Then, he slammed the door and ran downstairs like a gust of wind. He ran all the way to the garage door and saw Lu Tingxiao's car driving out, so he rushed over to block his way. After the ear-piercing screech of the brakes, Lu Tingxiao stopped the car with an ugly expression on his face. Lu Jingli banged on the car window, and before Lu Tingxiao could scold him, he pulled him out of the car and urged him, "Brother, come with me." "What is it? It's urgent?" "It was an extremely urgent matter. Come with me and you'll know. There's only one thing that matters to me now. I know you're only thinking about sister-in-law now. This is also related to sister-in-law." Therefore, Lu Tingxiao immediately followed her. Just like that, the two hurried back to the presidential suite 808. Lu Tingxiao glanced at the door in front of him, his face as cold as frost. His eyes signaled for Lu Jingli to give him an explanation. Why did he suddenly go crazy and bring him here? Lu Jingli wiped his face and opened the electronic lock with a beep. "Go in and see for yourself." Lu Tingxiao's expression changed slightly when he heard that, and he reacted almost immediately. Could it be? The next second, Lu Tingxiao stretched out his arm and quickly pushed the door open. Then, he froze on the spot with just one look. The air quickly filled with a frightening chill. The man's gaze was like a blade as he shot towards Lu Jingli. "Did you see?" Lu Jingli was so frightened that he leaned against the side of the door and said weakly, "How would I know that she's sister-in-law if I didn't see? Don't tell me you're jealous too? She's wearing clothes and has petals covering her, so I can't see anything? Besides, if I didn't discover that it was her out of curiosity, who knows what would have happened to her tonight? No matter what, my merits outweigh my faults, okay? Other than my precious Xiaobao, where else can you find such a great assistant like me? Lu Tingxiao, scum, thank you for your kindness." Lu Jingli, who had escaped death, immediately scrammed. It was said that curiosity killed the cat, but he still couldn't change his bad habit even after escaping death 10,000 times. After Lu Jingli left, Lu Tingxiao immediately closed the door. Then, he stood 10 steps away from the bed, his mind blank. The pure white bed, the bright red petals, the porcelain-like skin half covered, the girl's eyelashes gently trembled under the lace cloth. The thin layer of cloth that was already soaked in sweat clung tightly to her body, and her jade-like toes curled up cutely due to extreme fear and nervousness. This scene, for Lu Tingxiao, who had endured for a long time, was simply a torture. He felt his throat getting drier, and he almost couldn't breathe, so he stretched out his well-defined fingers and roughly pulled his tie. Probably because of the loud movement, the girl on the bed immediately began to tremble. She tried to move slightly away from the bed, but she seemed to have been drugged. She had no strength left in her body. After a long time of effort, she could only move less than 2 centimeters. Instead, she was so tired that she was gasping for breath. Her chest was heaving up and down violently, and her sweat had wet the hair on her temples. Such a scene was like a drop of water splashing into boiling oil. Lu Tingxiao, as if he was bewitched, walked towards the bed uncontrollably until he stood on the edge of the bed. The girl keenly sensed that someone was beside the bed. Her teeth bit so hard that they almost broke her lips, and she struggled even harder to leave. Lu Tingxiao was in a daze as he slowly reached out to the girl. His rough fingertips finally touched the skin that he had been longing for. That fiery heat almost burned his entire body to ashes along his fingers. However, in the next second, he felt a sharp pain in his fingertips. It was the girl who bit his finger hard. Soon, a trace of bright red blood seeped out of his finger. Looking at the girl's red lips sucking on his finger, even the pain turned into pleasure. Lu Tingxiao felt like he was going crazy. Even the pain didn't make him sober. However, in this instant, the girl's sudden loosening of her bite, as well as the deep despair on his face, was like a torrential downpour pouring down on his head, making him completely sober. Damn it! What the hell is he doing? He knew how scared she was right now. She clearly knew that every minute and second in the darkness was torture and suffering for her. Lu Tingxiao quickly reached out and untied the lace cloth on her eyes. The girl's eyelashes trembled violently. Then, they slowly opened up, like a slow-motion replay of a beauty who had woken up after sleeping for 1,000 years. The next second, the girl opened her eyes completely. The moment the man's figure was reflected in her clear and despairing eyes, she was first dazed, then quickly filled with mist, turning into large teardrops that rolled down her eyes, one after another, as if there was no end to them. Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao was completely flustered by the girl's tears. What's wrong? What's wrong? I'm sorry I'm late. Don't cry. I'll take you to the hospital. Don't cry, okay. His heart almost stopped beating. Ning Xi's eyes were red and she couldn't stop her tears from flowing. She stretched out her hands but they fell down when she raised them halfway. Do you want to get up? Lu Tingxiao immediately leaned over and helped her sit up. Just as he was about to help her get off the bed, the girl suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her head in his shoulder. Her body trembled as she cried. Her tears soon drenched his clothes and flowed down his neck. Lu Tingxiao felt as if a knife was twisting his heart. He stretched out his broad palm and patted her back gently as if touching fragile glass. Don't be afraid. It's all right. It's all right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because of extreme panic and fear, Ning Xi cried for more than 10 minutes before she stopped, and then she hiccuped again and again. Lu Tingxiao patiently helped her calm down. Fearing that he would disturb her, his body was stiff and he didn't dare to move. After a long while, Ning Xi finally calmed down. She said in a hoarse and helpless voice in his ear, "Fortunately, it's you." She said, "Fortunately, it's you." These 4 words heavily struck his heart, causing it to reverberate. He didn't know when it had happened, but his girl had started to trust him so much. Ning Xi forced a bitter smile and said intermittently, "Lu Tingxiao, you don't know how bad I've been today. Before I saw you, I had already doubted life and was almost desperate about this world." She thought she was indestructible and that nothing could defeat her. But when what happened that night 5 years ago was about to happen again, she couldn't bear it anymore and broke down. She had thought about it before. Even if Zhu Xiangcheng didn't use it for himself, he must have given it to someone else. Birds of a feather flock together. Those who hung out with Zhu Xiangcheng must be even more disgusting men. At this moment, she was incomparably glad that she had guessed wrongly. She hadn't expected that the person Zhu Xiangcheng wanted to curry favor with was actually Lu Tingxiao. A murderous intent flashed across Lu Tingxiao's eyes, but when he spoke, his tone was extremely gentle. "I'm sorry, I dragged you into this. That night, I wanted to help you out, but Zhu Xiangcheng misunderstood. I didn't expect him to do such a thing. How can I blame you? You did it to help me." After saying that, Ning Xi realized that she was still lying on his body. She quickly straightened up and said awkwardly, "Sorry, I dirtied your clothes." The girl knelt there with a face full of tears. After losing the cover of the petals, the thin layer of clothing was like nothing, unable to block anything. Lu Tingxiao coughed lightly and averted his eyes. "I'm fine." Ning Xi had just straightened up when she swayed. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly held her. "Are you all right? I'll take you to the hospital." Ning Xi shook her head with a flushed face. "It's useless to go to the hospital? Well, Lu Tingxiao, can I ask you for a favor?" "What?" Lu Tingxiao tensed up subconsciously. "The blindfold. Can you help me cover my eyes again?" Ning Xi asked in a low voice. Astonishment flashed across Lu Tingxiao's face. "Why?" Ning Xi said helplessly, "Because what the eyes don't see, the heart doesn't grieve." Although Ning Xi's words were inexplicable, Lu Tingxiao instantly understood. He coughed lightly, picked up the white lace cloth that was thrown on the ground, and gently covered her eyes with it, tying it up for her. The moment Lu Tingxiao approached, the flames in Ning Xi's body suddenly jumped up. She hurriedly recited the words "emptiness is color, color is emptiness" in her mind. Until he withdrew to a safe distance and there was only darkness in front of her, the turmoil in her body calmed down a little. If it was a wretched and disgusting man like Zhu Xiangcheng, it would have been fine. But it was Lu Tingxiao. For her, who was under the influence of aphrodisiac, Lu Tingxiao was simply a catalyst that could infinitely magnify the effect of the drug and produce a fatal chemical reaction. "Is it okay?" Lu Tingxiao asked. Ning Xi nodded. "There is one more thing I need to trouble you with. I have no strength at all. Can you help me to the bathroom? I'll be fine after a cold bath." "Wait a minute, I'll help you turn on the water." "Thank you." The sound of running water came from the bathroom, which could be heard clearly in the quiet room. Although she couldn't see anything, she felt very relieved this time. After a while, the sound of running water stopped and footsteps came to her ears. "Can I go?" Lu Tingxiao asked. "I think so. Just give me a hand." Lu Tingxiao stretched out his arm to support her and considerately kept a distance from her. Only his arm touched her. Her body finally immersed in the cold water, Ning Xi let out a comfortable sigh. Well, Lu Tingxiao looked nervous. Then I'll go out first. Call me if you need anything. And don't stay in the water for too long. Be careful not to catch a cold. Okay. Lu Tingxiao turned to leave, as if he was fleeing in a hurry. After going out, Lu Tingxiao opened the door of the hotel room. Then a figure fell in because he lost his balance. Lu Jingli scrambled to his feet, patting the dust off his buttocks. At the same time, he looked around the room furtively. Ahem, haha. I'm just worried about you guys. I'm just worried. I don't have any intention of gossiping. Lu Tingxiao looked as if he had already expected him to hide at the door. He said coldly, go to the car and help me get the documents. Lu Jingli's jaw dropped. Brother, are you kidding me? You actually want to look at documents in this situation? Are you a man or not? Lu Tingxiao glared at him. Do you need me to prove it? No, there's no need. I'll go right now. Go now. His brother's way of proving himself was definitely a particularly manly beating. After bringing the documents up, Lu Jingli listened to the faint sound of water. He sighed and lamented, why are you taking a cold bath? Why don't you go and be the antidote for her yourself? What a waste. What a waste. Lu Tingxiao, you can go now. Actually I don't want to go. Actually I want to stay with you every spring, summer, autumn, and winter, Lu Jingli sang as he walked away reluctantly. After returning to the room, Lu Tingxiao tried to ignore the blurred figure behind the frosted door of the bathroom and forced himself to focus on the documents in his hand. Well, he was quite efficient. He read 2 pages in half an hour. Just then, Ning Xi's hurried voice came from the bathroom. Lu Tingxiao, Lu Tingxiao, Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly dropped what he was holding and ran to the bathroom door. Ning Xi, what's wrong? Lu Tingxiao, I'm here. Come in. Go in. Hurry up. Hurry up. What's wrong with you? Lu Tingxiao became more and more nervous, but he didn't dare to push the door open. My leg is cramping. Give me a hand. Ouch. Lu Tingxiao put his hand on his forehead, sighed with relief and helplessness, and hurriedly pushed the door open. Because it was cold water, there was no mist in it. When her clothes were completely wet, they were almost transparent. Lu Tingxiao's Adam's apple moved slightly. Although he was not drugged, the degree of suffering at the moment was probably no less than that of Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao, Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi's urging brought him back to his senses. Lu Tingxiao hurriedly walked over. Which leg? Right leg, right leg. Ning Xi's face turned pale from the pain. Lu Tingxiao didn't care so much. He decisively held her ankle with one hand and covered her thigh with the other, stretching and massaging her. Can I? No, it's still cramping. Use more strength. How about now? It hurts. Be gentle. Can I do it now? Almost. In just a few minutes, Lu Tingxiao's whole body was drenched in sweat. Exhausted, he gently put her leg back. The next second, Lu Tingxiao suddenly noticed several glaring red bruises on her legs, and his face suddenly turned cold. What happened to you? Did Zhu Xiangsheng do it? My body. Ning Xi subconsciously touched a part of her thigh that was faintly aching. You mean here? I strangled them when I hung myself with a wire today. Lu Tingxiao's face relaxed, and then he frowned. I'll buy you medicine. Then he looked at her worriedly. You can't bathe anymore, or you'll get sick. Ning Xi subconsciously shrank into the water and stretched out her fingers to show 10. 10 minutes, give me 10 more minutes. I was almost recovered, but you came in again. Lu Tingxiao. All right. Lu Tingxiao left the bathroom and opened the hotel room door again. As expected, Lu Jingli rolled in again. Lu Tingxiao. Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli got up within a second and bowed. I'm sorry, brother. I'll leave right away. Wait, help me buy some medicine. Lu Tingxiao stopped him. What medicine? Lu Jingli wagged his big tail with a dubious expression. Bruises or something like that. Lu Jingli's eyes lit up like light bulbs. Brother, you're finally showing your power. Lu Tingxiao stared at him coldly. Lu Jingli said, I'm sorry, I was wrong. If you wanted to show your power, how could it have been so short? I'll go and run the errands now. In less than 5 minutes, Lu Jingli had bought the medicine and ran up to him. He said shamelessly, brother, why don't you just allow me to stand guard outside the door and run errands for you? Lu Tingxiao gave him a sidelong glance. If I see you a third time, the consequences would definitely be very serious. Lu Jingli could only sigh regretfully, and then he took out a small square box from his pocket. Brother, I bought this just now. It's definitely better than the ones given by the hotel. Are you sure you don't need it? Ow. Lu Jingli was kicked out. After putting down the medicine, Lu Tingxiao was about to knock on the door to ask Ning Xi if she was ready, when the bathroom door was pulled open from the inside. Ning Xi tightly wrapped in a huge bath towel, hopping out like a caterpillar. Be careful. Lu Tingxiao was worried that she would fall because she couldn't see it, so he hurried forward to help her. Ning Xi sighed and said earnestly, it's not me who should be careful. You should be careful, Lu Tingxiao. Careful of what? Lu Tingxiao was puzzled. Ning Xi said matter-of-factly, of course you should be careful of me. I soaked for a while and found that my strength was almost restored, but the flame buried in my body was like a dormant volcano that could erupt at any time, so in this case, you'd better stay away from me. If I go berserk and can't control myself, the consequences will be very serious. Even I am afraid of me when I go berserk. Let me tell you. Lu Tingxiao smiled and didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her exaggerated words. In fact, he was looking forward to the consequences. I've bought the medicine. Do you need my help? Lu Tingxiao asked. No, for the sake of your chastity, I'll do it myself. Ning Xi said righteously. My chastity. The corner of Lu Tingxiao's mouth twitched. Ning Xi blinked. Didn't you say that you would only accept sexual relations with marriage as the premise? It would be a sin if she broke his principles. It would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Lu Tingxiao pinched between his eyebrows. Was it too late for him to take back his words? Ning Xi said hesitantly, well, I'm not wearing clothes. Lu Tingxiao nodded, handed the medicine to her and said, I'll wait for you outside. Okay. Oh, by the way, please help me to see if my clothes and bag are outside. Okay. Lu Tingxiao went to the living room. After a while, he found a clothes basket in the corner. All Ning Xi's things were in it. There was a flash of light in her bag. A call had come in on her phone, which she had turned on silent mode. Lu Tingxiao glanced at it casually. The next second, his pupils suddenly contracted. 2 letters were clearly flashing on the caller ID YS. It turned out to be the person whose identity he couldn't find out. The phone did not hang up. The screen kept flashing. Lu Tingxiao stared at it for more than 10 seconds. Finally, his slender fingers picked up the phone and pressed the answer button. On the other end of the phone, there was the soft sound of pouring wine, followed by a hoarse male voice. Hey, sissy, did you receive the gift? Happy birthday. Lu Tingxiao remained silent. Hello. About 5 seconds later, when Lu Tingxiao thought she would stop talking, the slightly charming voice rang again. Oh, you're not Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao remained silent. Then, the rhythmic sound of a wine glass gently knocking against some glassware came from the other end. Then, the man continued to speak with interest. Then who are you? Let me guess, it must be a man who is still with her at this time, a one-night stand? Or are they dating? The man paused and chuckled. There was a dangerous malice in his tone. Ha, if she's in a relationship, did she tell you that she's two-timing? That's right, the other ship is me. What did he mean? Just when Lu Tingxiao was about to get more information, the phone suddenly went dark. It had run out of battery and turned off automatically. They had always thought that YS was one of Ning Xi's ex-boyfriends, but from what he had said on the phone, it seemed that they were still in a relationship. Otherwise, why would he use the word two-timing? Did Ning Xi have a boyfriend but she had never mentioned it? Thinking of this possibility, Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. But he quickly calmed down, for it was very likely that YS had said this deliberately to hurt his rival in love. Lu Tingxiao, I'm done applying the medicine. Are my things here? Yes. Lu Tingxiao came back to his senses and took her things into the room. After Ning Xi changed her clothes, Lu Tingxiao went back in. After changing into her own clothes, Ning Xi felt much more at ease and the atmosphere was not so strange, so she took off the blindfold. As soon as she took off the blindfold, she saw Lu Tingxiao looking at her with a complicated expression. She touched her face and asked in confusion, what's wrong? Lu Tingxiao sat down on the edge of the bed. Ning Xi, can you tell me about you? About me? What about me? No matter what it is. Ning Xi felt that Lu Tingxiao must have deliberately asked her to talk to divert her attention, so she thought for a moment and said, well, let me tell you about my hometown. Although it wasn't the answer he had expected, different paths led to the same goal, and it would eventually lead to that question. Moreover, this was the only time, and also the first time she had ever mentioned anything related to herself in front of him. So Lu Tingxiao nodded. Okay, Lu Tingxiao, there is a small town called Spring Breeze Town on the outskirts of Sea City. Do you know about it? Well, I bet you don't know about that small place. Yes, the scenery is nice. Did Heroes with Gone with the Wind shoot there? Ning Xi was excited. Yes. So you know about it too? There was a scene where Heroes with Gone with the Wind and Rain roll in the wheat field. It was filmed in our town? Roll in the wheat field? Why did she mention it at this time? She had talked so much, but she had forgotten about rolling in the sheets. Okay. Ning Xi hurriedly stopped this dangerous topic. It's mainly because we haven't been developed by humans, so the environment is very good and the air is very good. A few years ago, Lu Jingli also wanted to go fishing there, but I was busy at the time, so I didn't go, Lu Tingxiao said with a hint of regret. If he had gone, would he have met her earlier? In a sense, Lu Jingli was really the red line between him and Ning Xi. Although he didn't go that time, he still met her later. It was also because Lu Jingli had brought Xiaobao to the bar that all these things happened. I'll reward him properly when I get back. If you have the chance, you must go there once. You definitely won't be disappointed. I can be your tour guide. Speaking of her hometown, Ning Xi looked excited, but then her face slowly became gloomy. More than 20 years ago, the air was better. At that time, many rich people came here for vacation, and many even came here to have a baby, including Mrs. Ning Zhuanglinyu 24 years ago. At this point, Ning Xi suddenly fell silent. Lu Tingxiao didn't rush her, but waited quietly for her. Ning Xi took a deep breath and continued in a storytelling tone. Mrs. Ning was going to have a baby in Spring Breeze Town and then go back to give birth. Unexpectedly, the baby was born early. You've already exceeded she couldn't make it back to the city in time, so she was sent to the only small hospital in Spring Breeze Town. That night, there was another pregnant woman who was also sent in. What happened next? Lu Tingxiao asked, although he had already guessed what happened next. Ning Xi shrugged. Then it was too melodramatic? That small hospital was understaffed and had a messy system. The two girls were switched at the wrong place for 18 years. Do you know, Ning Xuluo's blood type was the same as mine, so no one found out about it? How did they find out about it? Ning Xi turned her head and smiled at Lu Tingxiao. Well, I should thank my dissolute second uncle for that. Ning Yaobang. Lu Tingxiao had some impression of him, but he didn't know much about him. He only knew that he was a famous playboy in the capital. Yes, my second uncle was a playboy. After he got married, he still fooled around with women and killed many people. He had 1 son and 3 daughters. I don't know if there is a problem with the feng shui of the Ning family, but in this generation, Ning Yehua and Ning Yaobang couldn't have a son no matter how hard they tried. So, my second uncle's illegitimate son became the only male heir of the Ning family. My second uncle was very proud at that time. He thought he could inherit the family property, but then he found out that the only male heir was not his biological son. He was cheated on by another woman, haha, and guess what? Lu Tingxiao loved the sparkle in her eyes. He thought for a while and said, then your grandfather tested the DNA of all the Ning family's descendants and found that Ning Xuluo was not a member of the Ning family, right? The Ning family was speechless. Can't we talk properly? I don't feel any sense of accomplishment by keeping you guessing. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. Sorry, I'll improve next time. Ning Xi snorted and continued. Anyway, after some investigation, they found out that Ning Xuluo and I were switched at the wrong place in the hospital, and then I was taken back to the Ning family. Hearing her say these words in such a casual tone, Lu Tingxiao gently touched her head. They didn't treat you well. Ning Xi didn't think it was a big deal, but when Lu Tingxiao patted her gently, she suddenly felt aggrieved. As expected, people would only feel aggrieved if someone felt sorry for them. No one would care who they were showing their grievances to. Looking at the girl's depressed look, Lu Tingxiao generously opened his arms. I can lend you my hug. Ning Xi was taken aback and turned her head. No, you're tempting me to commit a crime, you know that? Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything and continued to look at her intently. What about your foster parents? Did they treat you well? Speaking of her adoptive parents, Ning Xi cheered up a bit. My grandma values boys more than girls and doesn't like me very much. When I was born, she almost threw me into the river and drowned me. Later, she lost me again, but my father picked me up. My mother is also very kind to me. I have a very sensible and obedient younger brother. Hearing that she had almost drowned, Lu Tingxiao's heart tightened. Also, when she mentioned her mother, there seemed to be something wrong with her expression, but he did not ask further. I really liked my original family. When they told me that I wasn't their biological child, I felt like the sky was going to collapse. But with the Ning family's power, I don't have a choice. If I had resisted with all my might, there might have been a glimmer of hope that I would not have left, but... Ning Xi sighed. But I fell in love with a man at that time and I needed someone who could match him. Lu Tingxiao's eyes flickered. Was it Suyan? Ning Xi nodded and then said with a smile, are you surprised that I got to know a young master like Suyan with my status? In case Lu Tingxiao guessed it again, Ning Xi didn't keep him guessing. She answered her own question. Because Suyan had poor lungs when he was a child. He came here to recuperate and lived next door for 7 years. The first time we met, I happened to pass by and saw him having a heart attack, so I helped him carry him home. Later on, they gradually got to know each other. They met, got to know each other, fell in love, childhood sweethearts, and became carefree young lovers. But in the end, reality told me that it was not the story of Cinderella and the prince, but the story of Mr. Dongguo and the wolf. Don't be sad. He doesn't deserve you. Lu Tingxiao comforted her. Ning Xi didn't expect that she would talk about her ex-boyfriend with Lu Tingxiao. She scratched her head and said embarrassedly, let's talk about the Ning family. Ning Yehua and Zhuang Lingyou couldn't bear to part with Ning Xuluo, who had been raised by them for 18 years. So they didn't return Ning Xuluo to the Tang family. Ning Xuluo was still the apple of the Ning family's eye. You can imagine what happened next. The gap of 18 years can't be made up overnight. In front of Ning Xuluo, who had been educated by a rich family for 18 years, I was just a country girl. I was so naive that I treated her as a friend at first. But she took advantage of my trust and tricked me into using lemonade to wash my hands. She gave me a fake dress to wear at the banquet. She used these little tricks to push me out of the Ning family and out of the social circle. Those people in the circle were already familiar with Ning Xuluo, and they were from the same country as her. On the surface, they treated me as a friend, but in private, they all laughed at me for being a country bumpkin. Even my biological parents hated my existence, and felt that I was a stain on their family. Then came Suyan. After Suyan, the most important thing for a girl, her reputation and dignity, was trampled on. Ning Xi slowly held her knees. Today, there was a problem with the props. My sword accidentally hurt Ning Xuluo. In the hospital, my mother, my biological mother, slapped me without saying a word. My biological father also endlessly criticized and threatened me. Ning Xi stared blankly at the dark night outside the window, her voice faintly discernible. At that time, I don't know why, but the nerves in my mind that had been tense for 5 years suddenly collapsed. I suddenly felt that everything was meaningless. I felt that I was a failure. Was it because I was so terrible that everyone hated me? I've worked so hard for so long, but is there any meaning in it? As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Tingxiao suddenly pulled her shoulders hard. Ning Xi, look at me. No, everyone hates you. They're the worst. Understand? Ning Xi's eyes reddened. Even if she always acted like she didn't care about anything, she was still just a little girl in her 20s. Lu Tingxiao pulled her into his arms and gently kissed the top of her head. Ning Xi felt a slight weight on her head, but she didn't know what it was. Lu Tingxiao stared at her with a serious look. Ning Xi, if you doubt yourself, then try to believe me. You're good. There's no one better than you in this world. Ning Xi smiled through her tears. Of course I believe Boss Lu. Lu Tingxiao breathed a sigh of relief. At that moment, the despair in her eyes made him panic. After a moment of silence, Lu Tingxiao took the initiative to ask, Ning Xi, can I ask you a question? You've already exceeded what? Ning Xi tilted her head. Was it because he liked someone, so no matter what she did, he would think she was cute? Lu Tingxiao couldn't help rubbing her head again. Do you like diamonds? Huh. Ning Xi hadn't expected him to ask such a strange question. Why do you ask? It's your birthday today. Xiaobao prepared a birthday present for you. I think it's a diamond. He was worried that you wouldn't like it, so I asked him, Lu Tingxiao said calmly. I see. Ning Xi scratched her head and said, well, all women like diamonds, right? It's just my birthday. It's not nice for a kid to give me such an expensive gift. I don't want it. It's better to make some handicrafts. Lu Tingxiao pretended to say casually, it's not a valuable thing. The one you received on set the other day is a treasure. I'm afraid you won't like anything else after seeing that one. Ning Xi face-palmed. You know about it too? Gossip travels 1,000 miles. Don't compare yourself with that weirdo. He's crazy? Is he your boyfriend? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ning Xi almost choked on her own saliva. Pfft. How could it be? Why would you have such a terrible idea? Because you were very intimate with him, Lu Tingxiao said, sounding a little sad. Ning Xi had a headache. Oh my god, how was I intimate? Did I call him crazy to show affection? Lu Tingxiao nodded. For me, yes. You've always been very polite to me. You've never said anything harsh to me. Ning Xi didn't know what to say. Was Demon King Lu secretly a jerk? How could he like her to be rude to him? Anyway, that guy has nothing to do with me now. He is crazy. He just likes to throw diamonds at people. I'll definitely hit him back when I see him someday. Ning Xi said lightly, but there was a hint of fear in her eyes when she mentioned that guy. If not now, then in the past. Lu Tingxiao caught the key point. Ning Xi coughed lightly. Well, maybe we dated before, if one day is counted. Inexplicably, Ning Xi cared about Lu Tingxiao's thoughts about her. She scratched her head and said, Lu Tingxiao, do you think it's bad that I've dated so many men? Lu Tingxiao's face was solemn, as if he was answering a very important question. No. Everyone has their own way of life, and they have their own unknown stories. Anyone who doesn't know the truth has no reason to stand on the moral high ground and criticize others. Ning Xi's heart warmed and she chuckled. Lu Tingxiao, why do I feel like you're my die-hard fan? No matter what I say or do, you always think I'm right. Die-hard fan. Lu Tingxiao didn't quite understand what the term meant. Yes, it's the kind of irrational fans who support their idols regardless of right or wrong. Ning Xi explained. Lu Tingxiao pondered for a moment and then muttered, that's very appropriate. Ning Xi deliberately suppressed her emotions and remained silent. After a long while, she let out a long sigh. Lu Tingxiao, do you know? What? Do you know that you're even scarier than an aphrodisiac? Ning Xi looked conflicted, then she pulled at her collar with a pained expression. Damn it. She had chatted for so long but it was all for nothing. Why was this guy flirting with girls at the drop of a hat? The scariest thing was that he still looked innocent and didn't realize it at all. As the saying goes, no move is better than a move. No flirting is more flirting. This was the highest level of flirting. Pooey. Her mind was already in a mess and she didn't know what she was thinking about. Are you feeling unwell again? Lu Tingxiao immediately revealed a nervous expression. Ning Xi rubbed her throbbing temples. It was not as simple as just discomfort. The frenzy that was set off again was even scarier than at the beginning. At this moment, in her eyes, Lu Tingxiao was just like the male protagonist in a girl's anime, with his own sensational background music and romantic pink cherry blossom special effects. The rationality in her heart clashed violently with the bewitching pink glow. She felt like she was about to go berserk. Seeing that Ning Xi had suddenly become short of breath and was sweating profusely, Lu Tingxiao's expression changed. Where are you feeling uncomfortable? Didn't you feel better just now? Is it that kind of discomfort? That, or something else? Lu Tingxiao said awkwardly as he recalled what she had said earlier. She had said that he was scarier than an aphrodisiac. That was probably the biggest compliment he had ever heard. Ning Xi's eyes glowed red as she stared at him unblinkingly. Lu Tingxiao felt as though his body was on fire when she stared at him like that. Ning Xi shook her head hard and threw herself onto the big bed behind her. She looked up at the ceiling helplessly. Sigh, I feel like I have a long night ahead. Lu Tingxiao, if I can't hold it in later, remember to knock me out. Lu Tingxiao pondered. Actually, I can. Ning Xi immediately interrupted him. Stop. Please, Mr. Boss, spare me. I really can't take your flirting anymore. Lu Tingxiao raised his brows. What are you thinking about? I mean, I can go out. Oh. Ning Xi touched her nose awkwardly and stammered, but if I stay alone, I'll be bored. She was too embarrassed to say the word afraid. Lu Tingxiao understood her uneasiness and asked gently, why don't we go home? Go home. Ning Xi was stunned. The moment she heard these two words, she actually immediately thought of the Lu residence. Forget it, I look like this now. She didn't want to bring such filth there. Ning Xi glanced at the documents and laptop beside Lu Tingxiao's bed and said, just do your work. I'll meditate and regulate my breathing for a while so that my internal energy won't run amok. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. Okay. In the quiet guest room, the rhythmic sound of fingers tapping on the keyboard could be heard, like the most gentle soothing melody in the world. The girl's expression was peaceful as she slowly closed her eyes. Feeling the steady and long breathing beside him, Lu Tingxiao stopped what he was doing and carefully covered her with the blanket. The girl smacked her lips and subconsciously grabbed his finger, muttering, Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao's body trembled, and his expression changed greatly. She was calling his name. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Lu Tingxiao bent down and gently kissed the corner of the girl's lips. However, the gentleness between her brows was mixed with scattered dark clouds. Ning Xi, what should I do? I'm not as good as you think I am. Sometimes I'm really afraid that you'll look at me with such trusting eyes. If one day you find that I'm not as good as you think, will you leave me? At 5 o'clock in the morning, Lu Tingxiao was woken up by the doorbell. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Lu Jingli standing outside anxiously. Brother, don't scold me. It's really urgent this time. If you don't go back, your Xiaobao will destroy the house. They can't contact you and Ning Xi can't get through to you, so they can only call me. At this time, Ning Xi's sober voice came from behind. What's wrong with Xiaobao? I'll go back right away. Within 10 seconds, she picked up the bag and helped Lu Tingxiao pack up his things. Let's go, let's go. The three of them quickly rushed back to the Lu's house. As soon as they entered the yard, Ning Xi was dumbfounded. What's going on? What are those? Ning Xi rubbed her eyes and looked in surprise at those humanoid objects flashing with silver metal light walking around. She felt that she had crossed into another dimension. Lu Jingli blinked. Can't you see it? Robots? Ning Xi almost went crazy. Of course I can see it, but why are there so many robots? Lu Jingli said with a headache, this is one of Xiaobao's hobbies, but he hasn't taken them out for a long time. Now he's stimulated and released them all. It's like a scene of zombies besieging a city. There were dozens of those robots at the scene, and they were destroying everywhere at the moment. They dug the ground, ran wildly, hit trees, destroyed flowers, and one of them even lifted a little maid up. Accompanied by the exclamations of the servants, the scene was chaotic. Seeing that the little maid was about to fall from the robot's hands, Ning Xi opened the door and rushed over to catch the girl before she fell to the ground. Are you all right, Wan Wan? Wan Wan patted her chest in shock and then looked at Ning Xi gratefully. Thank you, Miss Xioxi. Miss Xioxi, you're finally back. Go and see young master. In the Lu's mansion, the servants, especially the maids, had a repulsive and vigilant attitude towards Ning Xi, but they didn't dare to show it in front of Ning Xi. Only Wan Wan had a good impression of Ning Xi because she often went to the crew to help Xiaobao deliver juice to Ning Xi. After getting along with her for a long time, Wan Wan felt that Ning Xi was not arrogant because she was spoiled by young Master Xiao and young Master Xiao. She was modest and easy to talk to. Seeing Ning Xi save the damsel in distress, Lu Tingxiao, who was sitting in the car, looked rather helpless. Lu Jingli stuck his head out of the window and wailed, Little Zixi, you can't do this to me. You stole my job. Roar, help. As he spoke, one of his arms was clamped by one of the robots. Brother, save me. Hurry up and turn these things off. Lu Jingli, who had just been clamoring to be a hero and save the damsel in distress, was now begging for help. Lu Tingxiao had a helpless expression on his face. Xiaobao changed the program last time. Even if I could crack it, it would take me an hour. 1 hour? My hand will be crippled. Ah, it hurts. Where is Xiaobao now? Ning Xi asked hurriedly. He should be in the computer room. Lu Tingxiao quickly got out of the car. I'll take you there. Okay. The two hurried in the direction of the computer room. Lu Jingli looked at the two's backs as they left. Hurry up, you two. After a while, Lu Tingxiao asked the butler to prepare an open car that looked like a sightseeing car and quickly took her to a detached building behind the golf course. The shape of the house was very strange. It looked like it was made of glass or some unknown metal. At first glance, one could tell that it was very high-tech and futuristic. The Lu's house was so big that Ning Xi hadn't been to the whole place. It was the first time she had been here. There is a mechanical device at the bottom of the building which can rotate with the sun. The outer layer of the building is made of solar panels and all the energy inside comes from solar energy. The butler and servants are all robots. Lu Tingxiao explained as a tour guide. So cool. Ning Xi's face lit up and she was as excited as a child. You can come here often if you like. I'll set up the access rights for you later. I thought you wouldn't be interested in these things, so I didn't bring you here, Lu Tingxiao said. No, I love these things. When I was a child, I always dreamed of being taken away by an alien spaceship. When I grew up, I even dreamed of falling in love with a robot. It's so romantic. Lu Tingxiao, why didn't he give her the access rights? They walked to the door and saw a robot lying on the ground. Its eyes suddenly glowed red and it seemed to be shooting at Ning Xi and Lu Tingxiao. After shooting at Lu Tingxiao, the robot struggled and made a sizzling sound. Aster. This robot that kept calling out master intermittently, looking like it wanted to snitch but couldn't speak, was probably the butler of this computer room. Lu Tingxiao sighed and opened the door behind the robot. He didn't know what he did, but the robot's eyes darkened and it stopped responding. Ning Xi nervously went over and touched it. Why isn't it moving? Is it dead? Oh, no, is it scrapped? It's okay. I'll fix it later. Ning Xi breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, that's good. It's a pity. It's quite handsome. Lu Tingxiao, just let it be scrapped. Lu Tingxiao directly entered the main building. Ning Xi followed him and looked around anxiously. Where is Xiaobao? The hall was full of robots patrolling back and forth. When they found Ning Xi and Lu Tingxiao, they immediately turned to face them. Then, they ignored Lu Tingxiao and pounced on Ning Xi. Ah, what do they want to do? Why are they all coming for me? Ning Xi was shocked. No matter how good she was, she couldn't beat the impregnable robot? Lu Tingxiao stretched his arms under her armpits and gently lifted her from one side to the other, dodging the mechanical claws of one of the robots. He said helplessly, because you don't have permission, they treat you as an intruder. What do we do now? Ning Xi had been swung around by Lu Tingxiao several times. Come closer to me, Lu Tingxiao ordered. Ah, how close? Ning Xi was at a loss. Xiaobao is in the control room on the top floor. We have two choices now. First, defeat them and force your way in. How are we supposed to fight so many of them? What about the second one? Just looking at the material made her hands hurt. She didn't want to fight with them? Secondly, Lu Tingxiao lowered his eyes and looked at her. I'll carry you up because they won't attack me. Ning Xi blinked and reached out without hesitation. Hug. Seeing the girl open her arms to him for the first time, Lu Tingxiao's cold eyes rippled. Ah, here it comes again. Lu Tingxiao, hurry up. Ning Xi had already taken the initiative to throw herself at him. Sure enough, as soon as she stuck to Lu Tingxiao, the robots didn't dare to touch her. Amazing? The soft and fragrant body suddenly threw itself at him. Lu Tingxiao was dazed for a moment before he reacted. He bent over and picked her up, then walked step by step towards the spiral staircase. This should be the first time he was so close to her when she was awake. He really hoped this road would never come to an end. If Lu Jingli knew what his brother was thinking at this moment. Well, as Lu Tingxiao and Ning Xi went upstairs, the robots kept following them, keeping a distance between them. In order to keep her balance, Ning Xi put her arms around the man's neck and breathed in his cold and pleasant scent. Looking at the large group of robots following them on the winding staircase behind them, she inexplicably felt that this scene was too romantic. But this pink bubble didn't last long. Just as they successfully reached the top floor and were about to open the silver-white door, the robots behind them suddenly made a clanking sound, and then stretched out their iron arms toward them. As the arms stretched and retracted, a muzzle-like firing trajectory appeared from within. Ning Xi turned pale with fright. F***CK? Are you serious? I thought they were just toys? Was it really good to let a 5-year-old play with such dangerous and lethal things? She didn't know how to complain about Lu Tingxiao's way of raising children. What should we do now? Ning Xi was about to cry. They just came to find Xiaobao. Why did they have to go through so many difficulties? It was like playing a game. Lu Tingxiao held her shoulders and pushed her against the door behind her. Then, he stood in front of her with one arm behind her. Ning Xi was silent for 3 seconds. She swallowed and said faintly, "Boss, do you know that your posture is very good?" Bai Dong. This was obviously another word that Lu Tingxiao didn't understand. Ning Xi held her forehead. Invisible flirting was the deadliest? At this moment, Ning Xi suddenly saw a robot firing a bullet straight at Lu Tingxiao's back from the corner of her eye. Lu Tingxiao, be careful, but it was too late. Lu Tingxiao protected her tightly, and his body let out a muffled groan. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi panicked. I'm fine. Lu Tingxiao slowly raised his head. How could he be fine? Lu Tingxiao, how are you? I'll take you there. Ugh. Ning Xi suddenly felt nauseous. Lu Tingxiao, you stink. What's so smelly? Lu Tingxiao's face darkened as he took off his jacket. There was a sticky and disgusting thing on the back of his suit jacket. Ning Xi covered her nose. Knowing that he was fine, she breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, she said speechlessly, "What is this? Is it shit?" Lu Tingxiao threw his coat downstairs and said expressionlessly, "Canned herring. It's said to be the smelliest canned food in the world." It was Lu Jingli's idea. The corners of Ning Xi's mouth twitched. Second young master is really talented. It's not just smelly, it's a biological weapon. As soon as she finished speaking, the door behind her automatically opened to both sides. Let's go. Lu Tingxiao took her hand and walked inside. His movement was very natural. Ning Xi looked at their interlocked hands. Although she knew that Lu Tingxiao was just afraid that there would be another accident, she still had a strange feeling in her heart. The light in this main control room was very dim, with only dozens of operating computers glowing faintly. Ning Xi followed Lu Tingxiao and finally found Xiaobao next to the largest machine. She saw that under the huge machine entangled with countless wires, Xiaobao was sitting in a small custom-made chair for him, staring numbly at the screen with countless flashing programs. Next to him stood a small robot about the same size as him, pointing the gun in its hand straight in the direction of her and Lu Tingxiao. Looking at the cold and dull expression on Xiaobao's face, Ning Xi felt that her heart seemed to be tightly strangled by an iron claw, so painful that she could hardly breathe. "Xiaobao," she called softly and tremblingly. The little guy stared at the screen, without the slightest response. Ning Xi was really scared. She had only heard about it from Lu Tingxiao and the others, but she had never seen Xiaobao when he was autistic. What should I do? It's all my fault. Ning Xi, don't blame yourself. It's all right. It's very common for him to be like this. Just call him a few more times. Lu Tingxiao comforted her. In fact, Lu Tingxiao said so because it was Ning Xi. If it were someone else, it wouldn't be so simple. Ning Xi tried to calm herself down and approached him cautiously step by step. The head of the little robot turned with her movements, but Xiaobao still didn't respond at all. Ning Xi walked up to Xiaobao, then slowly squatted down and carefully took his little hand. Xiaobao, Auntie is back. Sorry, something happened to Auntie last night, so I couldn't come back. Ning Xi couldn't explain to him what had happened, so she could only hang her head sadly. After an unknown period of time, a small fist suddenly appeared in her line of sight. Then, the little fist slowly opened, and there was a pink hairpin lying quietly in the soft palm. The hair clip was a heart made of about 100 small pink diamonds. It shone brightly under the cold light of the machine. This is. Ning Xi immediately raised her head, surprised and delighted. Although the little guy's face was still expressionless, Lu Tingxiao glanced at the hair clip in his son's palm and said, "This is Xiaobao's birthday present for you." For me. It was really a diamond? Ning Xi was in a dilemma. Lu Tingxiao saw through her thoughts and promptly explained, "It's just an ordinary water diamond. It's not worth much," but Xiaobao personally glued the 99 water diamonds one by one. After hearing this, Ning Xi was immediately moved. She didn't take the hairpin, but said to Xiaobao, "Can you help Auntie put it on?" Xiaobao somewhat sluggishly shifted his gaze to the hairpin. Then, he reached out his little hand and clumsily put the hairpin on her ear. Ning Xi touched the clip happily. "Does it look good?" Xiaobao nodded. Finally getting little Bao's response, Ning Xi couldn't bear it any longer and pulled the little fellow into her arms. At the same time, with a bang, the little robot next to him shot out a bunch of colorful streamers and played a happy birthday song. Ning Xi's eyes were wet, and she looked up at the colorful stripes flying all over the sky. "Thank you, baby. This is the most romantic birthday I've ever had in my life."